Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the ordinary council meeting for this month. Recordings of council meetings or parts thereof cannot be copied, recorded, reproduced, reused, or retransmitted without the prior written consent of the general manager. The meeting is being recorded and made publicly available on the council's website, and persons attending the meeting should refrain from making any defamatory statements. Council acknowledges that this meeting is being held on the traditional lands of the Wiradjuri, Kandangara and Darug people, and respect the history and culture of elders both past and present. I'll ask Pastor Joe to lead the prayer.
Gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for your goodness to us. Father, we thank you again for this beautiful region that we get to call home. Lord, I thank you for our mayor and our councillors and our council staff, and ask your blessing on them, and that you will continue to protect and bless this community and give us wisdom. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor Joe. I believe we have one request for a leave of absence from Councillor McKechnie. Is that correct? The mover and second for that leave of absence. Councillor Hayden, Councillor Tucker. All in favour? Passed. I note that Councillor McKibben is absent at the moment. I assume he is on his way. Are there any declarations of interest? No, I'll ask Councillor McKibben when he arrives. Here he is. Councillor McKibben, any declarations of interest?
Now, I think going to take clarification for the general manager in relation to the one which I can't recall which one it was, where it suggested that council may be putting forward Mount David Road or I think it was round 5 of the community grant. Noting the comments previously in a training session where, because of Burriga Road upgrade could be of economic benefit to me, similarly could apply to Mount David Road because it's on the other side of it. I was not in agreement with what was said, but I note the comment was made that
through the chair, the provisions around non-pecuniary less than significant the interest could be lodged in this instance, but it doesn't stop you from participating and contributing to the debate.
All right, well, I noted that I am part of my property runs down Mount David Road, so any upgrade of it could be incidental economic benefit. I would imagine. From trucks, etc.
Lost.
That's all.
Thank you. Noting there are no questions from, well, no one in the gallery except the press, unless the press has a question.
No.
Okay. So there are no questions from the public. Item 8, confirmation minutes. Recommendation minutes from the ordinary meeting held on the 19th of July 2022 be confirmed. Moving second to Councillor Hayden. Councillor Tucker. Councillor Hayden.
Yes, nothing to add.
Nothing to add. Councillor Tucker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just have one question relating to the minutes. Item 7, which was questions from the public at the last meeting, and there were 2 questions relating to water quality. And at the end of those questions, it was asked that the answers that were to be supplied to the questioners be distributed to councillor Stewart as to whether those whether those answers have been sent, and could we get a copy?
Through the chair, the letters were sent, and we'll upload the correspondence onto the council.
Thank you. That was all, Mr. Mayor.
Second, thank you, Councillor Tucker. All in favour? Passed unanimously. All right, the mayoral minute and report, item 0901. Move and second, please. Councillor Watt, Councillor Hayden, Councillor Watt.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, I'd just like to commend you on a very active program there. You're obviously doing very busy, and I think it's commendable. I did want to ask you a question on the correspondence from Raylene Isla, that the Oberon local government area has been declared a natural disaster in the following recent flood events.
Yes, that was, she was inquiring about whether members of the public could claim under disaster relief, and at that stage, we were not declared a natural disaster zone. The general manager at the time was in the process of gathering all the evidence to make the claim, which was, of course, subsequently made, and she was informed of change in status.
Okay, so there are a number of other people affected, particularly south of Black Spring, so,
And we did make that quite public.
okay.
Yeah,
great,
it wasn't,
great.
I responded to her afterwards because she had specifically asked about that question. So
Okay.
the answer.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's it.
Yes,
Outside.
I'm happy to second the report. Did we actually have any, on the 25th of July in the report, did we have any nominees from Oberon for the Inspirational Women's?
No, we didn't have any this year.
Okay. And I see that you're going to be a judge at the Big Bake Off.
I am losing weight desperately at the moment.
Well, best of luck.
And I think and the trouble is that something like that, I can probably insult at least half the people without meaning to.
Yes, that's all I have.
Thank you.
Happy to second that.
Anyone else? Councillor Gibbon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Could I, the second item on page 8 under meetings, are we missing the name of the organisation there? With Pauline Roaston, Acting General Manager, Southern Sector, and Natalie Unsworth from Workplace and Culture. Yeah,
Those are two people associated with Western Area Health.
oh, Western Area Health, I think that was what was missing.
Yeah. And it was a confidential matter that I was discussing with them.
That's all right, I won't go into that, no. And I was wondering if correspond on page 10, the 5th item down, 1st of August, the meeting with Alistair Lund. Did we attend that? And did anything arise in the meeting the 8th of August?
It was called, it was face to face in Dubbo, and there was meant to be a Zoom segment as well. It's like how we were going to attend.
Yes.
And that didn't happen.
Well, the meeting held without the Zoom part. Okay, fine, thank you. I just noticed it might have been a meeting.
I think the general manager was additional, but that's
Through the chair, there has been a Zoom meeting prepared for the upcoming weeks. To discuss matters for anyone who wasn't at the meeting.
Okay, okay, thank you very much. That clarifies that one. That's all I have.
one. Councillor Gibbon,
No, I'm just voting.
just voting. Councillor Tucker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. One question on page 10, the second item, Dr. Ross resigning from the AREC. And given that the AREC is in a sort of a bit of a limbo or in the process of being reconstituted, I was wondering how that affects things, whether we need to proceed immediately to fill that place, or is it going to wait until the AREC sort of all starts up again?
Bit of buzz. Yes, we do need to have two members, independent members, but what this does gives a chance to change the shape of the area. Previously, it's been 3 accountants. So I think it's if everything gets seen through a financial and accounting lens, the new business analyst and a risk analyst. So that gives us the financial, the business processes and the risk analyst, and that I think covers most of the areas you'd like to talk about in narrative. Whether we can achieve that is not a matter.
So can either you or the GM give any sort of outline of what the process is, and what the timeline is going to be to refine the suitable person?
So through the chair, we have a meeting on I think it's the 8th of September, where we will formulate a way forward to in fact set up an ad to have new ARIC members apply. Equally, our joint organisation has put a number of pre-qualified auditors or experts at council's disposal. But at the end of the day, we'll probably undertake an ad for that, and then that will be reported back to council making decisions on those two independents that we proposed to.
That was part of what I wasn't clear about, what role the council has in deciding who those.
The council have the role in making decisions on who they implement.
And will Dr. Ross be at that next meeting, or is his resignation immediate?
Through the chair, his resignation was immediate due to personal circumstances.
Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, all in favour? Passed. Notice of motion. Notice of motion is that it's from Councillor McCarthy that Oberon Council started Oberon Street tree plan, starting with tree planting in the centre of Nolan Street between Ross Street and Blythe Street, average trial. Move in second, please. Councillor McCarthy.
I'll say for the purpose of discussion.
Councillor McCarthy. Councillor McCarthy.
That's pretty straightforward. I think it's back at Moxton report indicates where to plant the trees, and the rest of it, a lot of it doesn't comply with road rules and everything like that, as you see with the one, the draft that come in from O'Connell Road. And we can sit around talking this forever. We're either going to start it or we're not. This is a wide street down there, and I just envisage that we might start it down there, and it's a wide street, plant them in the centre, suitable guards. But anyway, if we're not going to kick it in, that's fine. Thank you.
Councillor McCarthy.
I agree with Councillor McCarthy in that we need to move forward on the tree planting in accordance with the Spackman Moss report. I suppose the question is, I thought there was some prioritisation in relation to the entrances in other areas. I realise that there is, or maybe some issues with the entrances in that some is within the TI area and some is without. I agree with Councillor McCarthy that Jenolan Street could very well do with some tree planting, so I have no objection to that. It's just, I suppose, the council to decide, right, what are we going to allocate this year? There was already an amount allocated in the budget for it. Which streets are we going to allocate it for? Where are we going to spend it? And when do we start? Noting that we're probably, if not in, getting very close to prime planting season. So that probably throws a few questions back.
Councillor Trimble.
Yes, I just wanted to try and understand from Councillor McCarthy as to why that location was chosen to start with. I mean, I always thought it was the entrances that we were going to work on, or if perhaps not that, because you feel there's trouble with the O'Connell entrance. Why wouldn't we start in the main street or visual impact areas for people coming into town?
Does you want me to reply, or through you, or?
It's just
Yeah, I just think that we got a lot more to do on the main street before we get into the situation of doing the trees in the main street. If you go to the entrances of the town and you come in from the Sydney Road, there's trees missing there, and we need money to facilitate the continuation of the trees. If you go on the Lowesmount Road, it's very similar there. You've got the roadworks with Borg and all that that's happening, the railway line. So that one's sort of out for now. There's heaps you can do, but either I only put it forward if you want to get started. And I know what you're saying, the main street might be the thing, but the way we're spending the town improvement money on other things, I don't think you'll find that there'll be money for the other associated work with planting the trees. You won't have that. So this was just a simple matter of planting maybe 10 trees with guards on a trial in the street. So I don't care if I just want to see.
Is that near the showground? Is that where you're meaning?
From Ross Street to along Jenolan, from the Starts at the showground, nice wide street.
So you pass Edith Street and the information centre, it's the next one up.
Yeah.
Same direction.
I just think the O'Connell Road entrance is the worst. There's just nothing there, really.
If I may, I agree with you, but I think you've got to go back to one of the adjoining landholders and see if you can gain some ground so you can have the trees and be able to service the trees as well. Because it's not a very big area between the rural fence and the curb and gutter. So once you plant the trees there and they start to grow, you won't be able to mow underneath it. You're going to create a thing that's going to have to be whippersnipped all the time. So anyway,
Okay.
easy.
That's what, Heidi?
Yes, I'd like to speak against that motion. Simple reason is we have a master plan. The key streets in the master plan are noted as Oberon, Dart, Carrington Avenue, Raleigh Street, Queen Street, Curtis, Fleming, Ross Street, North Street, Dudley and Albion, and the major entrances being Duck Malloy near Albion, Abercrombie Road near Rupert, O'Connell Road near Abercrombie, Edith Road from the Fish River to Dudley, and Lowesmount Road near Albion intersection. And with the current budget and the amount of projects that we have running at the moment, I don't feel that we should be wasting any money on experimental tree planting in Jenolan when we have a budget allocated to do the planting of the designated key streets.
Councillor Graham?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I agree with Councillor McCarthy that we should get started on the plan, but then I agree with Councillor Hayden that Jenolan's probably not the place to start. And I thought when we talked about the master plan some time ago, we didn't really want them down the middle of the street. We want them on the edges. And so that's what I prefer to see.
Councillor Tucker?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Like other councillors, I agree that we need to be making a start. It's been going on for a long time, but I also agree that there are other areas that are in the master plan that I think would have higher impact. I just had one question about Jenolan Street. I can't actually recall seeing that mentioned in the master plan. Is it included in the master plan? Right, okay, well, I'm not going crazy then, that's fine. Because I was curious if we were going to plant anything in the middle, whether it would be sort of individual islands around each one or a whole median strip, or how that would work, and that would need a lot more looking at, I think.
Explain it there.
Through the chair, the reason why Jenolan Street is a street of interest was that there is a standing resolution from council about doing some tree work within Jenolan Street. It was pre the Spackman Mossop undertaking by council, because council then decided that we need to have a listed one source of truth document that we could progress. Jenolan Street hasn't been included in this phase. However, as council will be aware, it was to be included as a broader sweep moving forward. The reason why Jenolan Street was included in this notice of motion was put forward is on the basis that that standing resolution is still there, and we need to get some understanding of council's intent in regards to that, which is why, whilst it's not in the plan, it's still a council initiative to support.
Thank you for that clarification. And I do agree there are a number of streets around town that I think are unnecessarily wide, and the quite notion of bitumen, and where I think they could benefit from some centre planting. But I won't vote in favour of this because I think there are other more pressing areas, particularly during cities. Thank you.
You got anything to add? Councillor Watt? No.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, maybe I could seek clarification from the General Manager or Technical Services Director. Obviously, we have an allocation of budget this year, which I can't recall what it is for tree planting. It's at least 20,000.
Through the chair, I think it's around 70,000.
I think it's 70,000 in there. So with that budget in mind, and with the priorities in the Spackman Mossop report, what is without this resolution, we'll put up, just if we could just hold it for a minute, what is planned to be done this year in relation to pre-payment?
So through the chair, we are currently looking at where the town entrances and TI meet. So whether monies can be utilised from TI to assist with the town entrance planning. If that's not the case, the reports will be brought back to council to see where the next priority is. Council previously has indicated that the Albion Street bypass is an area which is suitable for substantial planning, and it is included in the Spackman Mossop document. So there are a number of options available to, in fact, commence the recommendations of Spackman Mossop. But council currently are looking at with the intent of the town entrances in accordance with the council's preferred options. However, once again, there is the standing resolution which allows this to be adequately dealt with.
So if I could, Mr. Mayor, so we're in August now. And now and next month is probably an ideal planting time. So really, we need to make a decision where these trees are going to go into. And I don't think even if they put in Nolan Street, it shouldn't be experimental. We have plans, we've gone through varieties, we've done a whole lot of work through the Spackman Mossop and everything else, and we have our own tree variety list, you know, General Manager. So I have a lot of sympathy for Councillor McArthur. We have to get on and do something. And what is the easiest to get done, bearing in mind we have money set aside for it and we need to start work? I'm putting it back to us because I just don't want to be sitting here with still saying, well, we're not sure we can do the entrances, where the TI fund is, and we're sitting here in January and we've missed the prime planting system all August, September. What's the easiest to get off the ground and get going? Because we need to get this plan going.
I think I've answered that question. I think Albion Street's the easiest one to start with, but either that, the industrial estate, there is.
What about Dart Street? That's
Dart Street,
it's in our commercial area too. And it's,
Look, I'd be guided by our experts in this space, but that's the ones that I'd be highlighting.
well, if maybe we have a view from because I think we need to start, and whether it's Councillor McCarthy's resolution or whether it's an amendment to the resolution, I think tonight we should make a decision as to where we're going to start.
All right, my view is quite similar to yours.
Yes.
And several other councillors. I think that we need to get the start going. There is $70,000 in the budget, $70,000, sorry, $50,000 from previous years and $20,000 in the current TI allocation, which we've done in June. So there's plenty of money. We know where we propose to start, and I can't imagine why it is difficult to understand where the TI boundary is and where you can put trees. So I am speaking against the motion as it stands, but I will provide direction to the general manager to have a plan presented to plant trees within the next month, or have them planted within the next month.
Yes, planted, because we'll be here in December, it'll be too late.
And I can do that via Merrill minute. With simply that direction. Or you can do it, we can do it.
I can't do an amendment because I seconded it, but someone else can.
It's like a-
Yeah.
For what?
Well, I think, making a start is a great idea, and I can support that. I'm actually not so convinced that August, September is the optimum sowing time. I think it's always the autumn, but I guess we're retaining the sentiment that we want to get started on this thing, so because I'm happy to remove that.
Through the chair, the Spectrum Mossel report is the plan that we put together to in fact start this process. Now, if council want to change the priorities around where they want to start the project, let us know.
No, I don't think that's the point, General Manager. The point is that all the councils are saying, let's get it started.
So if you can't start on the entrances and you think Dart and Albion Street can start immediately, I think the suggestion is start there, but I defer to other councils.
No, that's Mr. Mayor, that's exactly the amendment, I think, to stay.
And so would you like to articulate the amendment?
Well, I think that the council would strongly encourages the commencement of the tree planting project as outlined in our report.
Spectrum Mossel.
And we don't use we'll allow our staff to decide where that should be done. I actually don't believe that spring's the ideal time. No, I would say by autumn next year.
Well, April was the best time. I think the tree plan was endorsed in June.
That also gives a lot of time for planning.
I've planted a lot of trees in this time.
No, in the wet spring, that'll be fine.
Yes.
Councillor Trimble.
Oh, look, I just wanted to make a comment that $70,000 is not an insignificant amount to be spending, and we paid for a report, and we really do need to make a decision ourselves as to exactly where that starts, not just a street somewhere. Why did we get those people in to do a master tree plan if now we're deciding, oh, maybe we'll do it here or do it here, when it's clearly outlined that the entrances was where it was meant to start.
I think the general manager indicated that he would start with the entrance, what could be the Duckmore Road entrance at Albion Street.
The Spectrum Mossel has a list of priority streets. And I agree, ideally, with Councillor Tremor, ideally, it would be good to start at the entrances. But if there are issues involving entrances which were going to require some substantial investigation, then all I would say is that, well, let's at least start with some of the streets mentioned in as priorities. And I think that included Albion and Dart streets as well. If that, because I agree, if we don't do the entrances this year, they should definitely be done next year to allow any issues to be resolved. I think we just need to start.
So are you suggesting that you put Albion and Dart Street in that proposed motion?
Well, I'm easy. If we could do the entrances and as planned per Spectrum Mossel, I would certainly be following that. But if the general manager believes that that's going to cause delay and we may not get going, then I'm suggesting that we do some alternate streets that are still within the priorities that will get us going.
So Albion and Dart, for sure. Councillor Tucker.
Mr. Mayor, just wondering if I could suggest perhaps a further challenge to that wording, if Councillor Watt is happy with it, to keep that wording as it is there, but to add on to the end, commencing at the town entrances if possible, or otherwise commencing in Albion Street, Industrial Subdivision and Dart Street.
Well, I think I'm okay with that because that's consistent with the report.
It just gives a bit.
It gives the general manager and his staff some latitude.
I can't oppose it, but in order to allay Councillor Trembar concerns, which I understand. Maybe there could be a second pass to the motion, which I can't propose. That the general manager come back with a report on the 17th September advising how we should proceed with the entrances in future or something similar.
Councillor Trimble?
I just want to add further to that, you know, we allocated $70,000 and clearly $70,000 was for entrances. It wasn't just for little bits and pieces, maybe this street or that street. Because how did we get to a point of entrances being included in a report if we're now at the stage saying, oh, we're not sure if the entrances can be done? Surely that would have been discussed when that street master plan was being put together. That was problematic.
Comment, General Manager?
I was going to say, what she say?
The Spackman Mossop wasn't given any indication that there was a fund that only allocated for certain projects within the area. So I don't think they were constrained by that. They were just proposed with the options of preparing a street tree plan for Oberon. It was the council who indicated they wanted to start at the entrances in consultation with Spackman Mossop. Now, we've already discussed issues with entrances on a number of fronts, and while still meeting the requirements of council's town entrances, if we start in an area that's reasonably, I don't want to say easy because I don't know if anything's easy in this current climate. It would allow for a good start to that project.
All right. I'm Councillor Watt, are you happy with that proposed amendment? Are you happy to move it now? Yes. I'll have a seconder. Councillor Graham. Councillor Watt, you speak good?
I don't think I need to add much more. Thank you.
Councillor Graham.
I also think we've discussed it. Ready?
Anyone else wish to? Councillor Tucker?
Just to point out, Mr Mayor, that I thought part of the wording was suggesting prioritising the Oberon town entrances if possible.
I think prioritising indicator that I think it gives a bit of leeway.
Yeah.
I think prioritising means that.
Okay.
So you're happy to leave it as it is?
Did we mention Dart Street or not?
We did mention Dart Street, so if you want to.
But I don't know if Councillor Watt did or not.
Town entrances, Albion and industrial, so I think is what you want darts.
Yeah, well, that's part of what I have suggested. It's to say, and
Well, let's go to the motion order. You happy with Dart Street as well? Seconder, of course, you're happy. Yes. All right, anyone else has a comment or suggestion?
Sorry, the only comment I'd make is maybe the general manager could advise us just in future what the formal resolution on John Island Street was, because that was the first I was aware of.
Yeah, through the chair
Not
now
now.
or in the future.
In the future, by email next week, all the time, just say you've been aware, because I wasn't aware of it. If anyone else was.
Yes, Carpy?
I know mine's dead in the water, and that's fine, but when you say prioritising the town entrances, and if you use the O'Connell Road, where do we start and where do we stop there? It's an RTA road. I know the Spackman report goes right around the roundabout, but we're not allowed to do that. So we need to find out how much we can actually do there, because we might have to start 50, 100 metres back along there. And then when we start back there, you're out in the rural thing. I spoke to the general manager about this and I don't know how we can do it, but that it's a generic report or whatever. It's not a functional report. And yeah, I just want us to get started.
Okay, so I'll now put the amendment. which is the council commence a tree planting project in accordance with the adopted tree master plan by autumn 2023. Prioritising the Oberon town entrances and moving to the Albion Street Industrial Subdivision and Dart Street. All in favour? All against? Councillor McCarthy is against, so the amendment becomes a motion. All in favour? Councillor McCarthy is against, all others in favour. The amendment has become the motion and is passed. Right, councillor and delegate reports. 1101, the Oberon Arts Council. And the recommendation is that the report item 1101 is received with information. Move and second, please. Councillor Graham. And Councillor Hayden. Councillor Graham.
Well, I'd like to move that what we received as information. Not a very long report, if you can see the meeting only went for half an hour, but the Arts Council is just sort of moving along and happy to support any art projects and things around town. Wanting to support the Youth Council in the idea of a mural and put in an application for the Reconnecting Regional New South Wales with a couple of different events, which would be great.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm happy to second the report, and even though it's only a small report, there's a lot going ahead with the Arts Council and with the youth, and good on them for having a go.
Anyone else? I put the motion, all in favour? Motion is passed. Item 1102, Black Springs Community Association AGM meeting. Recommendation is 1102 be received with information. There is second, Councillor Hayden and Councillor McKibben. Councillor Hayden.
Yes, it's just report outlining the AGM summary with the elected representatives and the community association normal meeting.
Okay, Councillor McKibben.
It's a very thorough report from Councillor Hayden. I think deals with everything in detail. I note the most recent report was 8th of August, and some of the same issues were discussed in detail.
Thank you, Councillor McKibben. Anyone else have comments? I'll put the motion, all in favour? Motion's passed unanimously. 1103. The overall Business and Tourist Association meeting, and the recommendation is 1103 to receive the information. Mover and seconded, Councillor Hayden and Councillor McKibben. Councillor Hayden.
Yes, just an outline of what happened at the Option meeting, just the normal few discussions relating to roadworks, and it is what it is, I suppose. That's it.
Now, Councillor McKibben.
Yes, the report seems to speak for itself. There's quite some detail. Happy to second it.
Thank you. Councillor Carvin.
Just to comment on page 25 from Brian Dello.
Yep.
We keep writing to the Premier and our Deputy Premier and Sam Faraway. Maybe we should be writing to the opposition and just showing how much the current government wastes money.
I
know you did.
I agree. I've dug a bit deeper into the history, and there's some correspondence that I didn't know about, which was fairly forthright previously from here. But it adds up to a very consistent view from the council about the way the roadworks have progressed on John Caves Road, or not progressed. And I think I agree with you, Councillor McCarthy, that I might well include Mr. Minns as well.
It's just a shame to see it going like this. Unless you own the company, the stop and go company.
Yeah, the last update we got indicated that the road would be open by the end of the year. Sorry, in late 22. I'm not sure whether that's still valid. In fact, I'm almost certain it's not still valid.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor, which one? Is that down to Jenolan Cave?
No, that's the Hampton part.
Oh, that's the Hampton part will be two-way by then,
Yes, that was,
but not from there to Jenolan Cave.
but not from there to Jenolan Cave. I don't think it's going to happen for a very long time.
So is the cable car going to go in?
Might have limitation by then.
Considering horses.
A divine intervention.
Any more comments on the Opta report? Put the motion, all those in favour? Carried unanimously. All right. Item 1104, Skills Forum and Country Mayors Association meeting on the 4th and 5th of August 2022. Excuse me. Recommendation that the report item 1104 be received and noted. Councillor McKibben, Councillor Hayden, Councillor McKibben.
Thank you, Mr. Yes, detailed report, some interesting attendees and speakers, I had some great interest. Yeah, I'm very happy to propose the report accepted.
Thank you.
Yes, I'm happy to second the report. I did notice once again, there's still more discussion regarding regional housing pressures. I think this is not only just regional, but state and across Australia. But it's good to see this report. It's quite thorough and I'm happy to second it.
Anyone else?
Just a question, President Mayor, I was also going to ask about the regional housing. Is there any opportunity for that to participate in the $120 million infrastructure fund? So you're aware.
I'm sure there is. General Manager?
Through the chair, at that exact meeting, there was a comment asked from small businesses to have positive population growth as to whether the regional infrastructure fund will be further asked for invitation to participate in, and it was viewed with a positive response from the minister. We're yet to be formally asked to do that at this point in time, but the understanding would be, I would suspect, with a state election coming up, that those councils will be asked to lodge an interest in that.
I just want to provide a little bit of extra information. On this, the skills forum, it was quite interesting. Fiona Nash is the National Commissioner for Rural Education, and she had an advisory role across the nation on issues associated with education in general. Unfortunately, she has no budget. She has very few staff, but I think she's got a lot of will to move things along. I found the most interesting person who spoke that day was actually the Edward Kavanagh, Director of Policy at McKell Institute. Quite a young man, 31. He has some views about the skill shortages and how various councils and in fact very rural communities are dealing with that. He's actually, what he said is covered on page 36 of the student papers. He's actually going to be coming out into rural New South Wales over the next few months. Whether he comes here is pretty much a matter that's up in the air. But he is putting together a whole bunch of papers which will be released by the McKell Institute probably in late January, early February, just in time for New South Wales state election. So it'll be interesting to see what his conclusions are. He was a very, very engaging speaker. I'm probably one of the best on particularly the first day.
Mr. Mayor, I'm not highly aware of the McKell Institute. How's it funded? Is it private?
It's private.
Private institute.
And
I know that it works very closely with New South Wales University.
Yeah. But he was a particularly engaging individual. Very confident, without being dismissed as your legal.
So what traction will Fiona Nash have in her position as National Commissioner for Rural Education in the current government?
With the current government, I'm sure there will be much anyway. When you're a national commissioner and you don't have a budget,
Yes, that's right.
you're actually in a dormant. Which is sad but true. She can provide advice, but she hasn't got any money to back it up.
She must have a certain budget for staff, though, including herself.
Yes,
That's
that's kind of it.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, just another quick comment, if you don't mind. Certain agri-tourism activities will be listed as exempt or from complying development. That seems an unusual
Yes.
development and sort of wonder what implications that has for us.
That was a statement made in a 20-minute presentation. And there was no particular clarification. I don't recall any.
Through the chair, it was made by the planning minister, and it all relates back to definitions within the planning legislation, and agribusiness has a specific definition that they're looking to amend.
Or agri-tourism.
Agribusiness. There is a number of things that can be encapsulated under agribusiness, that there's certainly some movement to try and make that clearer.
Any further comments? I'll put the motion. All in favour? Motion's carried unanimously. 1201, Community Services Committee meeting. Recommendation is that Councillor Dawes, one representative from the following organisations as new members to the Community Services Committee: Oberon High School, Christian Life Centre Oberon, Oberon Show Committee, Regional Arts Development Central West New South Wales, Columbia Aged Care, and the Orange Community Broadcasters. And the second part of the recommendations, accept the minutes of the meeting. Moving and seconded, Councillor Graham, Councillor Watt. Councillor Graham.
Yes, I'd like to move that the recommendations are passed. It was, I think, a lot more invitations went out, but these are the ones that replied. Is that right? I'm not sure why Orange Community Broadcasters want to come, but if they really do, I guess they feel they've got some input to make. Don't know. So the minutes of the meeting are pretty straightforward. A lot of it was to do with the Reconnecting Regional New South Wales grant and the update on that, and then preparing for the end of year event that was part of that grant. It's difficult to keep moving on that without knowing whether the grant's been allocated yet or not. As soon as it is, there'll be supplementary meetings of working parties. That's what's been keep going with that. And the other one, the Community Support Network, is an important aspect of the Community Services Committee, just keeping, I guess, vulnerable people in the community connected and knowing what's going on. So it's good to see that keeping going.
Thank you, Councillor Graham. Councillor Watt.
I'm just happy to endorse those comments and endorse the adoption of the report.
Councillor Gibbon.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I can understand the Oberon High School. I can understand CLC Oberon Show Committee, Regional Arts Development Central West New South Wales to a degree, even though they're not in the community. And Columbia Aged Care obviously is Oberon. I just don't understand. Orange Community Broadcasters has obviously been requested. I have to be careful what I say here because they've approached us before for reviews in relation to issues, and I just don't. I'm not quite certain as to what their motives are for being part of our Community Services Committee meeting. the Regional Arts Development Central West, I mean, we have, we have an active community arts group, and we have Fran Charles who's president of Arts Council in New South Wales, whatever. But what is the reason behind this Orange Community Broadcasters? And noting that they will have a vote on this committee, I'm just through you, just maybe we'd like to know from the proposal why, and do you see it in any way impacting adversely on the activities of the community? Because I don't know anything about what's behind is it a religious group? Is it completely secular, etc.?
I can shed some light on them. They do want to become a regional community radio organisation, as far as I can tell. And they provided broadcast services for the ACHR about 3 or 4 weeks ago, when they had an open day.
Yes.
I think they're genuine, but I agree with you that it's not necessarily an organisation that lives and breathes in Oberon.
And the Regional Arts Development Central West New South Wales, I can understand they have, relationships in Oberon. Yes, anyway, it's up to the Community Services Committee. That's fine. I'll just ask the question.
The other issue, we can also, they can still attend as an observer, which I think is probably more appropriate. Would that be suitable?
I suspect that their usefulness to it would be in publicity.
Yes.
And they'd be able to advertise anything that we're happening to be doing. So I don't mind them being there.
Okay, I defer to.
If you're
pass the advantage.
as the chair, that's fine. Councillor Tucker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd also just make a brief comment that apparently the invitations went out from the previous committee meeting, asking them to join the committee, and they've replied saying they'd like to join the committee. So it'd be a bit rude if we then turned around and said, no, we're not going to have you on the committee.
You're absolutely right.
Second thought.
All right. Any more comments? Motion? All right, I'm going to put the motion. All those in favour? That's unanimous, and the motion is passed. They can ask the Orange Community Broadcasters to live broadcast community services. Oberon Street, potential fabrication of overhead wall. Recommendation is that council notes the information received for council's heritage from Council's Heritage Advisor.
Yeah.
Council notes the response provided from the owners of 163 Oberon Street. Council provide direction to staff as to its intention in relation to the Oberon Street awning projects. Do I have a mover and a seconder? Councillor Hayden. Councillor McKibben. Councillor Hayden.
Yes, I'm happy to move the recommendation parts 1 and 2. As well as parts 3, and I gather that we will be providing our thoughts or direction by vote. Right.
Councillor McKibben.
Yes, I'm happy to proceed on that basis. I think to second it. There's quite, in relation to 3, and it obviously relates to 1 and 2 as well. There's been quite a bit to consider by councillors in relation to both reports, the reports, and also I think there was a report by Central West Project Management as well. In relation to what we do in this situation, so I'm happy to second it. Obviously 3 needs some discussion. It may not need a lot of discussion, but needs discussion amongst council. Are you intending to have that now? Yes.
Who's, who wants to be first?
Well,
I'm happy to.
Councillor Hayden?
Are there any points of clarification? Phil?
No,
Okay.
we'll just get this and if we decide we need to split it up and then we'll see what happens.
Okay, in relation to the way I would like council to progress on this would be, do the awning for the Cook Park area and leave 163 out currently.
That's it,
That's it. How easy.
Councillor Jimmy?
So does that mean that we'll be taking down the existing structure that is there? No.
Through the chair, it would be that we undertake the upgrades to the awning as it exists, which.
Which can be done, meet the heritage suggestions, because I understood they were proposing a lot more wooden.
Through the chair, it would not include undertaking the removal of the existing awning. It would just be an upgrade to that and leave the extension to the front of.
Yes, off.
And not proceeding that.
So the longevity of the upgrade to the existing would still have, I mean, it'll still have considerable longevity with the upgrade.
Through the chair, it'd be replaced in a similar fashion to the upgrades that
Upgrades
have been
done
done
here.
up front here.
I'm happy with that then, yes. I'm happy, we don't proceed on the street and we just upgrade the footpath.
Sorry, the Cook Park part of the awning.
Yes.
Councillor Tucker?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to see over a period of time, a number of upgrades to awnings in the main street, particularly on the northern side, as we discussed previously, with rain and snow and people slipping over. And I do think that section, both at Cook Park and the adjoining property, is the highest priority. There are some others further down this way that would come after, but I do think that is the first priority. I am sympathetic to the views expressed by the Heritage Advisor and the property owner about the appearance of that existing awning. And I think it is worth investigating other designs for in front of the bargain centre, but also potentially removing the existing structure in the park and extending whatever we come up with for the bargain centre to extend it across that whole frontage and down to the toilet block. Because having another look at it the other day, it is pretty horrible. And even with cleaning it up, this has happened a number of times since it was constructed, and I think that there could be opportunities for a more sympathetic structure and hopefully something that has less maintenance issues to it. Given that there's currently no funding for that project anyway, there's probably not a huge urgency. I think we do have time to see if someone can come up with some ideas for a different type of structure that would satisfy both the heritage needs and the views of the property owner. And as I say, potentially replacing the existing structure with that new design as well.
I'd like to see the awning extended. I'm sympathetic to the cottage down there, but with a bit of design, maybe a cantilever rather than have the post in front of the cottage. I think we can achieve what we set out. We've got to consider our residents, the ice and snow and slipping over. I don't consider the paving a problem that's in the report, but I think it's our older people that walk along the footpath from business to business. And when it's inclement weather, frosty and snow, we're out there with bags of salt. We've got to do something. We're in an alpine climate. And I just think we've got to give direction to our staff to come up with something. Complete the awning along that whole street.
Anyone else? Oh, hang on, I haven't got back to you yet.
Yeah, sorry.
All right. Councillor Pember, you got a view?
I agree in principle with the points 1, 2, and 3, and just upgrading the current structure. I mean, it would be ideal if we could, demolish it and replace it with something that was much more sympathetic. But my other question, probably just on that, is how does this work with the street master plan? Will there be any impacts to what's in the master plan?
No, not through the chair. If you undertook just to replace the existing roofing and paint the posts of the existing, there'd be no impact.
Okay.
The main street of Oberon has 4 buildings which you'd consider attractive and interesting. You've got the National Bank, you've got Malachi, you've got Ramsgate, you've got that little weatherboard, which is now the bargain centre. Consider putting an awning in front of any one of those. You wouldn't put it in front of Malachi, you wouldn't put it in front of the National Bank, you certainly wouldn't put it in front of Ramsgate. So why are we putting it in front of this site? Now, I know the other buildings on the other side of the street, but also we're not responsible for awnings. Should we be putting an awning up outside the Long Arm Farm Cafe? Because there's no awning there and it gets frosty. And across the other side of the street as well. So I think the argument, the streetscape argument is one argument. The second one is, we talked a lot about the damage to the pavement over the years. That's a reason to put an awning up. And I don't think that holds a lot of water. The damage to the pavement can be repaired, and that's not a problem. The real issue is ice and snow. And that's probably the one thing that is in favour of having an awning. But I think that overall, it's not a compelling argument. It can be dealt with. We may need to put a different surface on the paving there. And that needs consideration. But at the moment, there's no money for this awning. So we have time to look at different paving styles. But I think putting an awning in front of that particular building would be a bigger eyesore than just about anything in the main street. You have right to reply? Councillor Hayden?
No, you don't need to reply.
Anyone else?
Should I bring up about the funding, if I may? Or not? Or leave it?
I think just leave it there.
Number 3.
Yes.
Okay.
So funding amendment
All right.
3 in order to outline what your preferred option was.
So
That's what my statement was.
You need a 4th item and give direction to the council,
Well, what we
not either proceed or not to proceed.
well, I think that
That would give them direction.
So I think councillor Hayden proposed and I second it. No, I'm certainly amenable to changing or an amendment to that to say the direction to be provided to staff is as follows.
Okay.
That at this stage, the Cook Park awning be upgraded, but the awning in front of the bargain centre should not proceed at this stage. Council may issue future directions in relation to design or something.
Yes, I'm happy with that, except change the bargain centre to 163 over.
Okay,
Because it's going to be moving.
So we now have a recommendation that is 1 and 2 are still the same.
Yes.
And 3. So that, is that, the amendment that you had in mind? Councillor Gibbon?
I'm happy with that.
All right, I will now. Proceed with upgrade. You happy?
Of
It should be say, do not
Semi-
proceed, it says do not.
Do not proceed.
and maybe at the end of A, we need a semicolon. Sorry.
It's okay. All right, I'm going to put the amendment. Sorry, you're moving the amendment.
Yeah.
Seconding. I'll put the amendments. All those in favour? 3. Councillor Tucker and Councillor McCarthy are against, all others in favour. So the amendment becomes a motion. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? That motion is passed. Councillor Tucker and Councillor McCarthy voting no.
I have my vote recorded against that. little thing, please.
Yep, it is.
It's not normal, is it?
We've put them all now.
Okay.
All right, thank you, councillors. Fees and charges, 1302, the minor amendment. The recommendation is that council place on public exhibition the amended charges to the 2022-2023 fees and charges for a 28-day period for feedback, outlining the change from minimum 2 hours to 1 hour, minimum 1 hour higher. And I don't think that mentions what it's for. What?
1 hour higher of the low loader.
So minor amendment of the low loader.
Just, now, before this is put up, do we need to place all the fees and charges on public exhibition or just the change? I thought we could have just put the change. I think that's what, because this is suggesting we need to put the whole one.
Through the chair, the council place probably the amended changes. The amended changes will only relate to this particular.
Okay, if that's what's intended, I read thought the amended change.
Yeah, I
Put the
understand.
whole lot there
No,
with the markup and people have to read through the whole lot.
No, through the chair.
So you
It's
happy,
not our intent.
you happy it's just a little bit, not the
Yes.
whole thing?
I don't want the whole thing, no.
Should no feedback be received during the public exhibition period, then be considered no. Be considered no further. Sorry.
Should no feedback be received during the public division?
Then it be
It be
considered
considered.
no.
Further report will be submitted to the council.
Then
No, to report to council.
further,
Okay.
no further report.
It's very fun.
All
And then there's-
right.
Changing some of the wording, you don't need an apostrophe for fees.
Fees will or not.
Yes.
And I think it needs fees and charges will be.
All right. All right. So it's council placed on public exhibition, the amended charges the amended changes, sorry, to the 2022-23 fees, plural, and charges for a 28-day period outlining change from minimum 2-hour hire to minimum 1-hour hire for the low loader. Should no feedback be received during the public exhibition period, then no further report to council will be required for the fees and charges to be amended to a minimum 1-hour hire and a minimum 1-hour hire
For the loader, will apply, for the low loader.
for the low loader.
Says it in the summary what it's for.
Yeah, but that's not what gets.
That's not what it. I'm happy to propose that.
Thank you, councillor Gibbon. On the second, councillor Hayden. Councillor Gibbon.
No, it seems absolutely reasonable and I can understand the necessity for the amendment. People do hire this loader quite frequently from council. I'm aware.
Yes, I'm happy to second that.
Anyone else? Councillor McCarthy.
Yeah, I spoke against the provision of putting the 2 hours on the low loader because sometimes you have people just want to move the machine along a road, which is C, and the director engineer at the time was quite adamant we needed the 2 hours. And here we are 12 months, 15 months later, come back. Surely goodness, we put a little bit more thought into some of these things, don't we, before we impose this time on the people?
I think no one's perfect, councillor McCarthy, and sometimes staff make mistakes.
No, I'm just saying that. yes. It used to be only an hour, and it was modified under the what's the name, recommendation.
Okay. Anyone else? I put motion all in favour. Motion's passed unanimously. Item 1303, tender 2022/5 Tablelands Way project, Lowe's Mount Road upgrade. The recommendation is that council nominate the open tendering method as prescribed in accordance with clause 166B of the local government regulation 2005 for suitable machinery and skilled operators for grading services to assist in the delivery of these works in accordance with the tender T 2022-05. And 2, on completion of the management 21-day tender period, a further informative report will be provided to council for award of the tender determination. Councillor Hayden, councillor second. Anyone going to second it? Councillor Trimbar, councillor Hayden.
Yes, I'm happy to second the recommendation. I think it's important that we put this out for open tender. There's going to be a lot of contractors that are going to be drug out with the roads lately, and I think this is a good way of doing for extras.
Councillor Trimbar.
Yes, I second it and totally agree with the statement just made by councillor Hayden. We need to do it. It's part of the local government tender regulations. So yes, get it out.
Anyone else? Councillor Tucker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We had quite a discussion on this topic last week. And I was quite confused on the day, but my understanding of what came out of that was that we were going to be calling tenders for a contractor to fully construct the road, so a full service contract. Because it wasn't clear last week whether that was the idea or whether it was for hire a plant, and if so, why did we need to do so? But my clear understanding from last week is that it was to be a full construction tender, and that's not what this says. This is clearly proposing that we invite tenders for additional plant as and when we need it to achieve council plans. And I don't think that's necessary. I think, as was discussed last week, that opens potential conflicts between people who have tendered under our plant hire arrangements. And I don't see why we can't utilise those existing plant hire arrangements as and when required to assist council with that project. So that's my main argument. I do just have a couple of other questions before you move on, if you don't mind, Mr. Mayor. One is relating to page 64 and where it talks about survey and road design. Can I just ask, just the confirmation that the road design includes pavement investigations and pavement design. It's not specifically mentioned there, but just want to make sure that that process is happening or will happen before works commence.
Through the mayor, yeah, certainly geotechnical, information will inform that payment design. Yes.
All right, and the reason I asked is the diagram on page 64 and all the tables on the following view pages all talk about 200 millimetres of gravel overlay. So if we haven't yet done the investigations in the design, I'm puzzled as to how we can know how much overlay is going to be required.
Through the chair, that's indicative at this stage without that geotechnical information, and that will be further informative to do that, but certainly may be the case in some circumstances that only 200 is required, others might be greater depth.
Yeah, well, I think certainly in my past experience, it was very rare to only need 200 millimetres. 300 is usually the minimum that professional pavement designs come up with, but I'll wait until those investigations are done. And just similarly, I assume there is or will be an environmental assessment as well.
Through the chair again, we're required. We're not really stepping outside of the scope, other than to under prune trees or where dead trees are, certainly all vegetation can be removed. We have a roadside vegetation management plan, certainly identified areas of concern or interest. That being the case, certainly further work would be undertaken, but at this stage, there is nothing that stands out that would require specific environmental impact assessment.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Gill.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I too, like Councillor Tucker, we have a standing offer for the provision of wet hire and dry hire of equipment with contractors. Now, reading through this report, I'm still not absolutely, we have a complete scope of work for Tablelands Way set out here on pages 55 through to 68. We have a comment of page 69 saying to assist with delivery on this project, the request for tender for the project work for suitable machinery and skilled operators for grading services, which includes but not limited to gravel overlay shape. This is in addition to the normal works program. Then we say that in the next paragraph, it says, and the total cost of the contract works will cumulatively exceed 250,000. Is it the cumulative exceed, or that we are going to be issuing to contractors standing orders who are proposed successful under this RFT, standing orders where the work to those contractors individually could exceed 250,000. This is where I'm getting confused. And I note the technical services director's comment on page 70. Which I was having some difficulty understanding, and it's maybe what we did pass. The third line, it says an individual work engagement is forecast or known, it could be closed that it may exceed the 250,000 threshold. What does that mean? That's the blue on page 70.
I think that's
Close,
close.
but it may be 250.
Close. Not close.
May exceed or be close to, or what?
Doesn't exceed that.
Or that it may, it should have, or that it may exceed the 250,000 threshold.
Could be close,
Yes, it's
Two.
close, not
close
close.
to. So couldn't we just, are you able to, I'm still having some troubles finding out. This is basically, we're not giving them a specific scope of work. This is a standing offer for engagement of contractors to provide machinery, either wet or dry hire, to undertake works. Am I correct on that one?
Not totally correct. It's for wet hire, of course. And given the scope of the work, it's one specific project that where it is
Yes,
expected that it may or exceed 250, then we should be going down the governing path of running a tender specific to the work.
but my question was, it is for wet hire,
Wet hire.
okay. And there is a possibility of saying it should, that any one of them could exceed 250,000, is that right?
Yes, in those engagements, that is right. That could be both truck hire in terms of transportation and all greater services.
And you are absolutely certain that people who have allocated time and money to tender under our planned hire panel for the 2022-23 year do not have any expectation that they would be getting work under this project, and that the out that you have, that we have just noted in your note, is sufficient so that our local people who've provided a tender and have signed up to, I assume, to a standing offer arrangement with the council for wet and dry hire will not be disaffected by this.
Through the chair, this is one particular project. It's not a multitude of a number, and we've nominated the bigger ticketed items where we believe that we will be in exceedance of the 250,000 threshold in grading services and or transportation, and therefore we've gone down this path wherein the dry hire, the wet and dry hire panel is for a cumulative effect over a 12-month period, but not any one particular engagement will exceed 150 or beyond, or $250,000 for one particular work.
So outside the grading and transportation that you're talking about, if we require plant and equipment, either wet or dry hire, but probably wet hire, for this project, will we be using the panel, the plant hire panel standing offer?
Through the chair, yes, that is certainly a reality of what we can do. We can engage that.
Is that what we're intending to do, not can do?
If it's required, where we can't service this internally. So it gives us that advantage of using our own equipment, where we can't, and there's a competitive nature of resources to deliver projects, and certainly we could go to that wet and dry hire panel to engage.
I must admit, I'm getting a bit confused. So is this a tender for equipment which you are going to tie up from the start of the project to the end of the project?
Correct. So
they're tendering for that equipment, be working on that project for the entire time.
correct in those particular.
All right,
items, yes.
and so you will then use the wet and dry hire, the standing offer provisions for anything extra that you might need.
If or as it's required, that is a possibility where we can't do it internally.
Can I clarify that there? As I understand it, and correct me if I'm wrong, we're going out with a request for tender. And say 5 companies say we can provide the grading services for the Tablelands Way with our graders, right? And we'll provide the operators, right? So we're not going to necessarily select one. We could select 3, 4, or 5 of those. One of them can provide part of do one section. One of them can do another, and one of them can do another. That's contemplated by you as well, isn't it? From what I read here.
No, it's not really the intention. The intention is to select a provider for the duration.
For the whole project.
Correct.
That isn't, because okay, that's not absolutely clear. Because I was assuming that, and the same with transportation, I would thought you may pick more than one truck company.
Again, when we can't service complemented internally, then yes, there could be a number of truck companies depending on their availability. Again, sort
From the panel.
of, preferably from the panel in the first instance. Yes,
But the panel that's you're going out with this RFT or because you said transportation is going to be covered under this. Anything outside grading and transportation may go under the current May 2022 plan hire. Is that right?
look through the chair again, without a crystal ball. It would be ideal to have one specific supplier of transportation, as it would be for grading services, one specific supplier for the duration of the project. That's what we're looking for.
But they may not have the capacity, for instance, for the number of trucks.
There may not be trucks
We'll
like
be
that.
going on, not just hypotheticals, it's a tender, and we'll run the tender process and then we'll report back to council. Just in
Okay,
terms of-
fine.
just in terms of some overview. Council, we put a plant hire penalty out each year. Because under the tendering thresholds, the accumulation of how you engage contractors has an issue if you go over that $250,000 mark. Right, so we do that.
That's right.
However, it's very clear in the tendering guidelines and in the regs that if you have a individual project that is going to overstretch, you're obliged to go to tender for it. So the director has made has obviously had a look at probably that tender, our plant hire rates, and says this is going to go close to or over that tender threshold, therefore I need to go to tender. The council to consider this, it's simply whether you go to an open tender or you want to select tender method. We've proposed open tender in this instance. I'm just trying to get, because going through the tender, there is an obligation that we must go to open tender for individual projects where there is a chance that this overrides 250. Further, you in your policy under contract management have decreased that level to 150,000. So whilst the tendering threshold is here at 250, we acknowledge that there is more probity around doing it for over 150.
But my recollection is when we went out to panel equipment, basically the reason for going out to tender was that we could be awarding one or more contracts to contractors under that would exceed 150,000.
So the reason why you go to the panel is to get a rate in which we can tell any authority who asks, the Office of Local Government, our auditors, that if we have engaged one contractor for a period of time that's over the 150 or 250 threshold, we have a report, we've engaged that contractor for a number of projects over that 12-month period. A tender has been undertaken and it fits within the provisions of what the audit office asked us for. This is an individual project where we have and must comply with the regulations, which is why this report.
So the panel tender process doesn't cover this because it's one individual project, because I'm sure that some of our panel contractors would get more than $250,000 worth of work.
Absolutely, which is why you do the first one. This is an individual project, so you have an obligation to do this in its own right.
All right, we discussed that enough, I think.
I've got some more questions.
Okay, well. You have it. You got questions?
Yes, I do. Thank you.
Are they relevant to this?
Absolutely.
Okay, all right.
I would like clarification on assuming that we invite tenders as per this recommendation. I'm guessing, or I'm gathering that we would be specifying that if successful, you would be working on this project starting on such and such a day right through to when it finishes. Or so how does that fit if council's equipment isn't available for a period? Do we have the ability to send them away and get them back again at a later date? What then happens if they say, no, I've gone off to another project, I'm no longer available? So I've got that question. And my second question is, what happens if the rates tendered under this contract are higher than what the same contractor submitted under the plant hire panel? Do we go to the plant hire panel rates and get them on an offer and use that? until we get to the 250, or do we pay the extra amount in order to be applying this contract? So they're my two questions.
That's really, I'll answer the second one first because it's much easier. The accumulation of projects throughout the year, if it's greater than 250,000, you should have a tender panel or a report that deals with that to satisfy the Office of Local Government under the tendering thresholds. Individual projects must also, where there's a chance that it goes over that, you don't have a choice. So the indication is you can't work up until 250, then send them on their way, because you might use them, engage them in other processes. Right, so there is no, we must, where there is a chance that they're going to go over the 250, engage in a process like this.
Right.
First,
Just to respond to that part, while we're on my question number 2, if the rates tendered under this come in higher than the planned hire panel, another option might be, okay, we'll get this one under the planned hire panel for the first couple of Ks, and then a different one for the next couple of Ks, in order to save money.
I would suspect that if you do it over a bigger job, the chances of it coming in less would be more than ideal. If you do it in that instance, I think that question number 1 then becomes more of an issue than what it would be if you had an individual engaged contractor. But it's once again very clear, if the entire project was going to go over 250,000, we are obliged to do this. So it's doesn't matter if you do it to 249,990, send them on their way and do the same thing. You have an individual project that you need to comply with the tendering requirements. That is as simple as I can make it.
I'll comment on the question if I may.
Look, councillors, this is getting
Ridiculous.
a bit silly. The panel is for incidental work, where you want someone to, it's a small job. That's what it's there for. This is a contract to do a $7.5 million project.
Well, it's not, it's a standing offer that is called on for them to do work.
Yes,
That's
so
what
it's
it's
under a
standing on, but there's no guarantee of work. As I understand, we're not guaranteeing them any work under this RFT, are we? We're saying we require you to provide grading services, for instance, for this, please provide us. So if we decide to point 2 instead of 1, that is our option. We decide that we've got our own graders for a period of time and then we'll engage them. That's all our flexibility.
I asked the technical service director just a while ago, this is for the entire project from start to finish. And the answer is yes.
Yeah, that's the intention, certainly to engage.
No, that's not the intention, that's the actuality.
Well, it's not, it's a standing offer.
If you're gonna, you know,
It's not a fixed lump sum price for us.
Okay, can we just have a point of order and get back to the whole point of this? It's just a tender application. Read it, understand it, and vote on it.
Through the chair, it's a 10-kilometre scope of work. It's the intent to engage a supplier that can provide those services for the duration of the project from a nominated time to an end start date. So generally that would be, in our instance, probably September through to March, April, if that's the duration it takes. And again, the very reality of weather and all those other things have impacts. No doubt, again, it's still the intent to hold that award with those particular providers for the duration of delivering that project.
is that what we've done with the first phase of Losemount Road?
So it's no different to Campbell's River Road that we've done it, no different to how we've done Burriga Road, and again, how we're about to embark on Parkstone Road with regard to stabilisation and or grading services and or transportation. These are the competing projects. If we're going to deliver them on time, this is why I'm asking council for these options.
Reply, councillor Hayes.
I just think we need to get on with this. This is a simple report. It's not that hard to understand. I think we just need to close the conversation on it. It's been going on too long and we just need to vote.
All right, I'm putting the recommendation. All those in favour? Councillor Tucker has voted against. All others in favour. The motion is passed. All right, item 1304, development application. 10.2022, 7.1, 6 lot subdivision at 58 Belfast Street. Modification application to 10.20, 16.37.2, modification is layout at 99 Street, Oberon. Recommendation. Has everyone got the recommendation in front of them?
Yep.
Rather than me going force with speaking it.
Yep.
I'll assume you've read the recommendations. Councillor Hayden, you're moving it.
Yes, I'm happy to move the recommendations in all three parts. And it's a very lengthy report. I've read every section of it, and as long as everything is adhered to, I don't have an issue in moving that.
Thank you, Councillor McCarthy.
If I may, can I ask councillor Hayden, would she consider that we approve this report, but stipulate that the cul-de-sac must be hot mixed due to the tight turning circles? There's a dot 3 point. A dot 4 point or dot 3 point, move the other one down. I've had a look at the site and I need confirmation. I'll move that first, and if councillor Hayden's not happy, I'll withdraw and sort this a second.
Or would that be part of the consent process?
Could be.
Well, through the chair, given that there are conditions already in the report, an additional condition in the recommendation, if council want to go down that path, it'd be much better probably to include it as an addition in the recommendation. So you're approving the application in accordance with the report and you're adding. So if you're going to add a condition, then it'd be better off to be a standalone condition at this point.
Do you want to put a section 4?
Okay.
You want to add
Well,
a
so what's the
recommendation?
name? The division comes down as 4.
Yeah.
Number 3 goes in that we
See,
require this to be hot mixed, and I'll sort of give you some indication why when we get to talk to it. But if you're not happy with it,
Or do you have to put that?
No, I'm happy if you want to put a recommendation. I don't have an issue with it.
So what you want is a cul-de-sac to be hot. And that's the entire cul-de-sac.
it's only a small area.
That's all right. I'm just trying to make sure we don't.
No, that's
We have a recommendation which is actually quite specific.
councillor Hayden, I want to speak to it first.
No, I've already spoken.
You've
to
already-
moving,
you've already
Okay,
spoken.
all right.
Councillor McCarthy.
sorry, sorry, councillor, just through the chair, is there a specific depth? Because the last thing you want to be doing is, oh yeah, I hot mixed it, no. You know, like I just think that there should be, if it's hot mix, it needs to have is there a standard depth for hot
To be
mix?
determined by the director of
Based
works.
on the geotechnical payment design, look, nominal would be a minimum of 50 mil, no doubt.
To minimum 50 mil, like just to, so it is. Is that could be bigger, but it can't be any smaller. Sure.
Shouldn't it be to the directors? What's it? Discretion.
That sort of is though.
Well, it is, and the geotechnical underneath the
Okay.
actual base layer is the important part. Yeah, that's the wearing course can be no less than 50 mil against the curb.
Right, you can speak with them.
Sorry, councillor,
Thank
I'm
you.
just trying to, because there is a development application and a modification together in this. This relates to only one part of it, so just to link the DA number to that condition as well as I think makes Damien's eyebrows remove or being placed together at this point in time, just so it links to the DA rather than the modification. Include a condition.
Will become a part of the number one, okay.
That. I'll second it. Yeah, thank you.
Happy with that? Ladder? Yes.
Apologies.
I'm not against the added blocks to the subdivision, but if you go up there to the eastern, northeastern section of the road. In the subdivision, it's already been torn up once and repaired by a jet patcher due to the nature of the turn. If we're having garbage trucks and other things like that that are going to pick service bins and that, I think we've got to start protecting ourselves, and these small turning circles have got to be hot mixed, and yeah, I think this needs to be done.
Yeah.
The other thing I would like to have is confirmation that the drainage is suitable that's already been installed. I was up there the other day and there's a large amount of water, so the additional of these 6 blocks, the existing drain pipes in that have been to service this area is suitable.
Yes, with the chair, from what I've seen in the actual design, there's capability for it to drain adequately.
Okay, that's all we need.
Just in relation to your concern about the 2-coat bitumen lifting, wasn't in relation to garbage trucks turning on it.
I didn't say it was, but I'm saying that those larger trucks turning, and that was, it was a truck that turned there,
It was construction.
picked up the thing and you know, we as a council, once this developer's gone, we have to pick up the tab.
Yeah, it was relatively new pavement, is susceptible to large vehicle movements, when it's brand new, no doubt. 2-coat bitumen isn't, you know, immune from that type of thing, no doubt, but certainly it does have that ability over time that it will settle and it won't tear, but look, again, I'm not opposed to hot mix either.
Sorry, Cal, thank you.
Good amendment. Any councillor Tucker?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a quick question for the planner. There's already quite a large subdivision down in that area, and this adds just a few extra blocks. Do you know whether the ultimate intention is to extend further west and join on to Rupert Street or Abercrombie Road, probably Rupert Street? Because at the moment, all of those blocks and these extra ones all come out onto Springfield Street and North Street. And I'm just wondering if there's an opportunity to bring forward any additional access on the Rupert Street.
Through the chair, at this stage, not aware of any proposed access through Rupert Street. I understand in the past, councillors approached the planners to look at accessing Rupert Street, perhaps something could be looked at in the future.
I'll just, through the chair, strategically, it's ideal that an additional access to the amount of lots that you indicated reports to a separate egress, which in this case would be Rupert Street. There are different owners in order for that to occur, and that's, as Damien's indicated at this point in time, the allotments have not been earmarked for access on the Rupert Street purely because the developer doesn't own the land. However, our strategic intention was always to have the access to Rupert Street, a secondary access, and we've catered for that through the original 86 lots to have an extension into the area that the.
So there's a street which dead ends, which if the next block was ever developed. it would
Correct.
extend through.
Would have to create that connection. Council has previously talked about potentially talking to adjoining owners in order to do that, but that's for another day at this point in time. But yes, strategically, yes, but currently no, purely due to the fact he doesn't own the land.
But the layout still allows that option to happen, potentially happen in the future.
Yes.
Thank you.
Anyone else? You need to vote on that one.
Finalising the ditching.
Oh, it's moving.
Just add.
All right, I'm gonna put the motion as you can see on the screen in front of you, which is in 3 parts. All those in favour? Motion is passed unanimously. Item 1305, modification to development application 10/2021.2.1, function centre camping ground, animal training facility at 370 Meadows Road, the Meadows, voluntary planning agreement. Recommendation is that council accept the draft planning agreement submitted by Lee Douglas Craig of 370 Meadows Road, the Meadows, New South Wales, developer. Proceed to enter into the voluntary planning agreement. Proceed to issue the modified conditions of development consent of 10/2021.2.1 by deleting condition 3 and grant delegation to the mayor, to the general manager to sign the voluntary planning agreement on council's behalf and notify the applicant of the outcome of the exhibition. Moving to second, councillor Hayden, councillor McKibben, councillor Hayden.
Yes, I'm happy to move the recommendation and definitely happy to grant the delegation to the general manager to sign the planning agreement, and I hope this all works out.
Councillor
Yeah,
Hayden,
that's what I
councillor
want to
McKibben.
say. I know all about it.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm happy to second this. I note that we were sort of caught in a precarious situation here because the legislation in relation to voluntary planning agreements sort of changed after, I think in the previous council, we had looked at entering into voluntary planning agreement in relation to contribution to Meadows Road upgrade, and we were caught in a cleft stick, and this is about where we could get to. So, and that was the requirement also to delete condition 3. So on the basis of getting out of a difficult situation, but maybe not with the contribution we ultimately desired for Meadows Road, I'm happy to proceed. Would you second this motion?
Anyone else? Councillor McCarthy?
I'll just speak against it in the respect that I thought we get quotations or estimates from the engineering department that's in excess of $250,000 to upgrade this road. There was required at least 4 culverts, and the $10,000 or $20,000 offered to towards this voluntary contribution falls short. If you go to other developments that propose an impact on the community, they are required to upgrade the road at a lot more cost to this. I'm not against the activity out there, but I just don't think that ratepayers of Oberon should have to bear the cost of widening this road in the future. These horse floats are 2.4 wide, or even a dual horse float when they're there with a, what's name? Recently, when I went out there, a lady had to pull up to allow me to come down the road. The road is only 4.8 and 5 metres wide. I just think this is a cop out myself to accept $20,000 in lieu of what should be a road that's got to be upgraded. And if we use the example on the O'Connell Road where someone put a winery in, they were up to over 240,000 just to put that verge in. So I just can't see how we accept this $20,000 to upgrade the road. Thank you. That's only the way I feel.
Noted. Anyone over there? Councillor McKibben?
Whilst I have considerable sympathy for Councillor McCarthy, the problem was the general manager correct me, but the situation was that we had a viewing, we looked at it, it was decided that yes, we should have a contribution to the upgrade of Meadows Road, which was considerably more than 20,000. However, the legislation governing voluntary planning agreements changed. And whilst we thought we as the council could dictate the terms of the voluntary planning agreement, the legislation allowed the proponent to actually dictate the terms of the voluntary planning agreement. That meant that when we passed a resolution saying, yes, we agree to your development subject to entering the voluntary planning agreement on council's terms, We were told legally that that's not the case anymore, that the proponent has to propose the terms. And the proponent proposed, I think it was 2 lots of $10,000, $20,000, and we were stuck with that. That's why I said in seconding this that we were placed in a cleft stick situation. But maybe the general manager could assist me with whether I am correct in how I've explained it.
Through the chair, I would love to say that you are wrong, councillor, but that's pretty clear in this.
So I have a lot of sympathy for Councillor McCarthy's position. And that's ideally where we would have liked, but we got ourselves in a difficult position.
Let's leave it at that.
Is that-
Yeah, that's
I can't say anymore.
a good summation. Anyone else? All right, I'll put the motion, those in favour. Councillor McCarthy is dissenting, and all else was in favour. Motion is passed. And 1306 has been pulled. There is some extra information that has come to light that requires
Oh, there's been rejection.
No, just further information will be given. Is that a reserve?
Is that for the old man or still a reserve?
32 Vice Street.
No, what's it?
Okay.
The house. All right, 1307, development application 10/2022/45.1, new carports at 14C Hawkes Drive, Oberon. The recommendation is that council refuse the development application 10/22/45.1, the new carports on at lot 43, DP 1231820. Being known as 14C Hawkes Drive, Oberon, in accordance with section 416 of the Environmental Planning and Assessment Act of 1979. The conditions contained within this report for the following reasons. Development does not comply with the front setback control of the Oberon Development Control Plan 2001. The proposed development does not comply, sorry. Does not comply with the building height plan requirements of the Oberon Development Control Plan 2001. And the development is not considered to be appropriate in the existing streetscape and will have an unreasonable visual impact on the locality. And the proposed development unreasonably encroaches upon into an existing facility. The division will be called in accordance with section 375A of the Local Government Act 1993. Councillor Hayden moving, Councillor McKibben seconding.
Yes, I'm happy to move the recommendation in your parts.
Councillor McKibben?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, look, I too, I'm happy to move the recommendation in 2 parts with the bullet points in 1. When you look at the location of these carports on the site, they are definitely encroaching on all areas around it, and the visual impact is pretty dramatic. So I believe that as proposed by the proponent, that the development application should not be approved. So I'm happy to second the recommendation.
Councillor Tucker?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I support the motion as well, particularly in relation to the streetscape. Looking at the photo on the top of page 109, I think that it's obvious that setback was done deliberately to create a particular streetscape, and that would be particularly ruined by extending a carport down into that area. And also, in my view, the 4th dot point of recommendation around encroaching on the sewer, and I think very poor practice to construct over the sewer if you ever need to access the sewer. You've got all sorts of problems. So I support the recommendation.
Anyone else? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Passed unanimously to refuse the development application. 1308 development application 10/22/58.1 a shed at 82 Ross Street, Oberon, and the recommendation is council vary class C 5.5, the building height plane of its current DCP 2001 in relation to development application 1022/58.1 for construction of the shed at lot 13, section 55 in DP 758805, being known as 82 Ross Street, Oberon. And a division be called in accordance with section 375A of the Local Government Act 1993. Councillor Hayden, Councillor McGinn.
Yeah,
You always look to your right first.
yeah, I'm happy to support the recommendation there, and I don't see any huge issue with that one. Yes, there is an issue with the height plane, but no one seems to be affected there.
Councillor Ewing.
Yes, I'm happy to second this, and I note that the proposed shed seems to be in sympathy, as far as I can see, with the roof line and the characteristics of the existing buildings on site, which is nice to see. The same sort of proposed roof line and I think cladding. So I think the proponent has done a good job in trying to fit the shed in to match with the existing building. And yes, there is the issue of the building height plane, but I think in this case, it actually helps to have it there with the same roof line. So I'm very happy to proceed with this.
Thank you, Councillor McKibben. Anyone else got a comment? Put the motion in favour. 1309, request to vary over on DCP for minor variations. Recommendations of council grant the general manager delegation to allow up to 20% variation for garages and sheds and carports to DCP relating to non-compliance for C 5.3 height of building, C 5.5 building height plane, and C 6.4 carports and garages, gross floor area subject to no submission being received in the negative. Councillor McGill. Councillor Hayden. Councillor McGill.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think this is absolutely reasonable in the context that we spent a lot of our time approving variations to these buildings, which relate to the three characteristics in the recommendation. And building height plane, the height of the building, etc. I thought there was going to be an issue about, do those also cover overshadowing?
Through the chair, building height plane.
Oh, it does.
Substantially covered.
All right, fine. And where there is I have a question as part of it. Where there is a cumulative non-compliance, not cumulative, but they comply in more than one, is it considered to come back to council, or is it? So if they offend C53 and C64, both, does it come back to council or not?
Through the chair, the way that this recommendation is, if they comply with the delegation, then no.
Yeah.
In saying that.
So they could be 20% out and there's 20% out. I just want to get clarification. 20% out and there's 20% out and this, yeah.
So based on this recommendation, the prerogative would be, should council endorse this, that if three of those provisions were 20% out, they could be assessed under delegation rather than
Come back to
being
council.
reported to council. In saying that, as you've probably seen in other applications, if three sections of non-compliance there's generally supported by a submission saying, hey, there's all this impact. So if there's an impact, then the delegation is mute and we bring a report back to council. But under the current recommendation, if three of those areas or standards are within the 20%, that delegation will be provided to the general manager.
I'm happy with that.
I'm happy to delegate the task to general manager, and it will bring some room for us to deal with some more important issues.
Any more? All right, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Passed. Motion's passed unanimously. 1310, request to waive tip fee for bins and collection over on SES. The council provide $500 in kind to the Oberon SDS for vouchers to be used for the disposal of waste to be accepted at the Oberon tip. And provide this from section 356 donations. 2, council provide 500 in kind, being 240 litre bins and weekly collection service for 22-23 to the Oberon SES to be used for the disposal of waste to be collected by a council contractor and provide this from the section 356 donation and place requests on exhibition for a period of 28 days. Should no submission be received during that time, the allocation will be made to the Oberon SES by way of tip vouchers and 240 litre bins and weekly collection service. Mover and a second, Councillor McCarthy, Councillor Graham. Councillor McCarthy.
Report speaks for itself.
Thank you, Councillor Graham.
I think SES deserves the support, they do a great job.
Any more? Councillor Baker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a question about how that would work in practice. Both of them are in-kind donations. So we're not actually sending them a check. So does that mean that to make it work in practice, that we would transfer the $1,000 out of section 356 and into the waste bin?
Through the chair, what we would do is probably pretty much exactly that.
All right, anyone else? All right, all those in favour? Motion is passed unanimously. I suggest we have a bit of a break here for 5 minutes. We'll stretch our legs and get a drink. Let's come back at by 1:45. Well, if you need. We will stop recording, but we're still. Welcome back, everyone. Restarting at 7:42. Item 1311, Stronger Country Communities Fund, round 5, project prioritisation. The council rank in order of priority the list of nominated projects and submit a single application to the Stronger Communities Fund R5 by 23 September 2022.
Could I seek an amendment before we start that we rank in order of priority projects, take out the words the list of nominated projects, because that means that only the projects on page 119 and 120 to be considered.
Okay. So rank in order of priority
Projects.
The
United Fund.
Prioritise the project.
Okay. So we've got 6 projects there currently, which are nominated from the list of matrix staff poll. I'm sure you've read all of them. I'm sure some councils have other projects. Would you like to state what they are at the moment?
Do we have to move the recommendation first and then talk about the project?
Well, I just want to, what I'm doing here is setting up a method to deal with it.
So if it's going this way, I know that in the last few days, a letter has gone to council from the Barriga District Community Association about the hall and the termite damage and the water ingress into the substrata.
Yeah, that, I would see that very much as a community project,
Yes,
which is separate, and we're not dealing with that here. We're dealing with the ones for council.
fine, but aren't we submitting them all?
No. The other 4, well, the other projects with 402,000 need to be community led. It doesn't mean we can't be part of it, but it needs to be community led.
Okay, so they're separate from this. I
They're
thought
separate.
we were.
No, these are separate from that. From the $402,000 projects coming from the community, and I think the Barriga one is a perfect one for that.
So of the 885,000, basically, half goes to one sponsor proposed by council and half goes to community sponsors.
No, there's 1.2 million thereabouts. There's
1.287.
1.287 million, 885,000 is, and this is what the New South Wales State Government. I don't like this. 885 plus change for the council and 402 plus change for community projects, community-led projects.
Okay. Fine, so the Barriga one can come in under the community organ, and that's not what we're considering.
No.
Yeah. Right,
But that's I think that's an excellent community project.
fine, okay, I understand now, I was under a misapprehension, I understood it was 885 and the community ones 402 were part of that.
No,
Came in under this, and we had to put them all together. No. Thank you for clarification. Sorry, then the purposes of my amendment to one were probably not needed.
so there's the 885. Those nominated projects. In the business paper referred to,
Yes,
and the 402 is projects that the community. Should be putting up.
but they're submitted again with the assistance through Oberon Council.
Yeah, and the grants officer is there to help. Yep.
So the only clarification is, council, sorry, is that if it's a community organisation but council infrastructure, they encourage the partnership between the community organisation and the council in that instance.
I can't remember who owns Barriga Hall.
Barriga
Barriga,
it's not council.
And are we involved in disseminating information out to the community that?
I've already started.
Okay,
And we will promote it. And promote it.
So at the moment, if anyone's got something that they think should be a council project that's not there, please speak up.
Well, I note that the ineligible projects include roads, so that we can't.
And I
We can't put the-
immediately wanted to put it all into STP. That's not.
We can't put the STP and we can't put the Arkston Road
No,
diversion.
And my project can hold over to next year.
Well, I'll put one in, lighting of number 1 lead field on Lowe's Road. I think we should put in somewhere in 200,000. I don't know, I think plans we got before was $88,000 when Carney was the manager. I suppose the cost has gone up now and 200,000 if, I think, yeah, anyway. So how we go, it'll probably get shot out, but
So
Look,
that one has, that absolutely could comply with the council owned land. We own the land, it's infrastructure. But it also might be a community one in partnership with Oberon Council, so it could fit both, to be honest.
two sucks with the cherry, but
Yeah,
it was consensus at the sports meeting the other night that we've got to start looking at it because there's no guarantee there's other things going ahead.
are we confident that could be done within 3 years?
That could be done.
Yeah.
It has to be done within 3 years. Isn't it?
Yep.
Okay, because I did have a,
I'm just trying to
I
make
did
sure
have,
we've got what we're talking about.
I mean, ideally, from an energy saving and environmental perspective, I think it would be a good idea if we could use solar for our new STP. Downside is, I don't know that we'll get this project completed within 3 years with the solar panels. Because I'm through the general manager and the technical services director. If we did operate our STP through solar and injected nuclear, how much would our power saving be?
Depends on how big your road is.
through the chair, a piece of work has been completed to
Yeah.
assist Oberon Council in answering that question.
Yeah, I thought that.
We'll be looking to submit that piece of work should council endorse the solar panels project that we've put up
Oh,
part of this.
oh, that's part of this, is it?
Well, we have included it councillor, so
Yeah.
it's a project that could have substantial benefits for Oberon moving forward.
I would have thought so, because I know a lot of other plants have moved to solar and they are finding substantial power savings running their STPs by solar. What we thought about.
Councillor Tucker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Firstly, I'm after clarification on the first couple of lines under ineligible projects on page 118. I just can't quite follow what it's saying about the hub. It says, thus funding for additional components of the hub would not be eligible unless they could be completed by such and such a date. But does that mean we could consider the existing, this current stage that's just getting started?
Well, my understanding, councillor, through the chair, is that because this project in its current form has been approved, you can't just add money to that project to reduce that cost. But if there was an additional project that can be included quickly, you could consider it. Like solar
Alright, so-
panels on the hub would be something that's.
Doesn't seem to be what that says at the moment. It says, cannot seek retrospective funding to cover any project component that is completed before funding is impacted, which I mean, I assume that means when the sign.
Yeah.
Which clearly the hub wouldn't be completed by the time that the agreement was signed next March. So is there any way of just checking that? Because if by chance it was eligible, that would be a potentially a very good way to reduce our loan.
What about the-
Through the chair, I also thought that. And I asked for clarification from the grants officer, whose comment to me was, because the hub had been signed, like the contract for the works had been signed, we couldn't retrospectively say, I'll take 800,000 off the hub work.
Okay,
the
well,
furnishings could be done under
if that's
this.
the case, fair enough. It's just not what it says there.
No, and I take your point. When I read it to start with, I went, okay, that's not it, but I take your point in reading it this way that potentially could. I'm reasonably comfortable with the fact that if there was ability to reduce the hub loan, which is, remember, a mandate from you to me,
Yeah.
I would have included that as a job. So I looked at the hub, I looked at the SCP as two gap fillers, and both were considered in order, but also that is the.
What about the fit out? of the hub?
Bring the soft furniture.
I'm just talking about the fit out. Bookcases, furniture, we have an allocation for it, but we haven't had a contract for it. Would this be, and it,
Potentially, yes, the concern that's been raised by Matt is state governments don't really like the double dip when you start going down that path of it has funding and you're looking for more funding. I think that in this current
we've been doing that
climate,
with STP all over the place.
well, no, that's a different
Yeah.
project. I think that you could probably make an argument for that additional fixtures and fit outs. I'm just not sure how it would go, given what the grants officer is stepping for, and whether it's a double allocation, I'm not sure.
What we're trying to do here is get down to any feasible lists.
Yeah. And the other suggestion that I had was, if we find that any parts of our street tree program are outside the TI fund area, could we continue that?
I think you've got other plans for that, haven't you? The discussion a few days ago.
Through the chair, there is an allocation in TI now for street please, the point that you raise about outside that TI locality. The problem with this is that you had need to spend a minimum of $100,000 per
Right.
project. And whether we get to that is the issue.
Okay. Councillor Graham, you got anything?
No, are we ready to put priorities on them?
Well,
I don't have any.
I'll just
Just
do that.
listen to projects.
Councillor, what, anything you got? Councillor
I've
Hayes,
just fixed my stuff that I'm ready to.
you ready to go? So the only thing we've really got extra, Councillor Dunbar, I keep forgetting you because I look over the top of you.
She's on mute.
You're mute, you're mute.
Sorry, I'm ready to prioritise the projects.
All right,
Councillor.
Kevin, Councillor Kevin.
Sorry to be a pain, do we think on project 2 that the 200,000 is sufficient if we're only going to include the STP?
Well, I think what we should do is do some prioritisation before we start.
And one project we haven't considered and we eliminated some time ago because of the cost. And obviously it probably won't, it may fit within the parameters, but I don't know, was undergrounding the power on the main street for a further 3 blocks.
$1 million.
That was the problem. I said it would be outside the parameters, yes. It would significantly enhance our main street though, especially if we're doing this, the master plan for trees. But yes, it's dollars.
The only thing is I would have to defer back to the guide to see if it's in module the eligibility of that project.
Again, as Councillor McCarthy put forward some time ago, and I don't know that we've done it, is that at least putting the conduits in the roads for
The
possible
$100,000.
potential, sorry. Yes, I know the minimum one is, I can't recall what the conduit cost.
20,000.
I think we went.
We didn't go as
Discussed
costly.
it, we went to that.
No, I mean, ideally, it would be a project that would enhance the image of the town, but it's probably outside, it's outside our.
All right, at the moment, we have, in that case, we've got 6 projects there.
We have the next one warning
I've just got lights down for $200,000.
and councillor Hucker wants to include the street trees outside TI.
Well, I take the point that it's unlikely that the work outside the TI area is going to reach the $100,000.
So what we have here now is 7 projects, the 6 listed there, and the $200,000 for the league club lights. So I think we'll do the normal thing, and I'll start on one side and get people's first priority. We'll work through that. Has everyone had a good chance to look at these and reading the business papers?
So you're knocking out the main street improvement. You don't think it will comply.
Well,
Through the chair, we're just having a look to try and.
The power,
pretty solid scope.
Hey?
the power you mean, or what?
Well, the landscape of that next block. towards our-
No, we were talking about the landscape or the underground.
But they can't do one without the other. You gotta put the underground before we do the land.
Yeah, I think the underground came into $1 million.
$1 million.
That's what the profit's gonna be outside the
I'll leave it out. I didn't think it was that high.
It was.
Technical services director, sorry, Mr. Mayor, through you, could I, with the technical services director, remind us of what the cost for putting the power underground down here was? Raleigh Street to, where is
It
it?
was gonna be the magnitude of $1 million.
That's what I thought.
That's total.
Pity we can't do it because
So just through the chair, the delivery of essential or core government services funded from another source such as local government, New South Wales or Commonwealth government. So the essential services, that's the STP. For the maintenance and construction of local roads or other ongoing core services, infrastructure works that are the ordinary responsibility of council or other levels of government. So these are ineligible projects.
So does
The
that
other-
mean the solar panels and the STP are eligible?
because they relate to a particular project. And the other one that could, oh no, I'm not saying that they are, I'm just highlighting those ineligible. For general work packages without specific scope, costs and locations, e.g. upgrading lining of sports ovals without identifying the work required, number of sites and locations. So we'd have to put a reasonable package together in order to get that, should council want to be involved in this space. So you just can't say we want to upgrade lights.
You got to upgrade
Yeah,
heat lights.
We want to
X amount of
upgrade
dollars.
to this standard of light on this field and this number.
But for instance, we could we upgrade power by converting from four wires to twister? You know, we've got 4 wires, have one wire twister, which they do where there's trees.
In the.
Yeah.
That. Maybe how you, one, lodge your application and 2, justify it. I've just read.
Did we get a costing on doing that, Chris? Because I know we talked about it.
We don't need that upgrade tonight, then upgrade the lighting tonight, do we? The standard to upgrade it.
For the sporting fields, what we're talking about.
No, yeah, absolutely not. No,
Because Chris has got on his iPad. hasn't he?
Yeah. So it doesn't need it, we would need to put the scope in. All I was saying is that if council resolve that that's a good project that they want to support, we would need to just fill the application form in accordance with what doesn't make it ineligible. And I think what they've said is that you can't just say, oh, we want to upgrade fields on the sports grounds. You have to say what field, what sports ground, what's supposed to be and how it's supposed to look. So that's all it was saying.
All right.
Similar to the lighting project at the,
So similarly, nothing under the new sports complex would apply.
I'd be reluctant to do that, given the substantial amount of state government funding that you've already got for that project.
So we couldn't do a soft hockey field or something.
Oh,
No, that's $1 million.
The other thing is, if you put a light upgrade and then you transfer those lights over to the new sporting field, then that would possibly work.
I have a full list if we can.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I know this conversation going on. At the moment, we have 7 items. We have 6 that are in there, plus $200,000 for lighting for the rugby league ground.
Yep.
So if everyone's had a good look at these, I'll go around and give me what you think, or what your priority.
Your number one.
I've got it all here.
Yeah, just your
Can I
number
just
one.
read it?
Your number one. Yeah, your first.
Okay, my first is number 3, the accessible playground as part of our disability inclusion.
Yep.
That's it. I don't need to give a reason.
No, that's fine.
My first is solar panels on the council facility.
My first also.
That's my first also, and I'd like to see the amount increase and if possible, include the sewage treatment.
Well, it's a council facility.
I'm happy with the playground.
Solar panels and battery initiative, and I too, if we need to increase the amount, we're prepared to do that in line with what Councillor Tucker said, but I leave the general manager and technical services director to determine what, if it does need to be increased.
So just the read, sorry.
Let me get Councillor Trimbar.
I prioritise the Oberon Indoor Fitness Centre, and basically because of the hub, facilities not as available currently till we have the hub built. So that was my reasoning behind that one. But I'm happy to go with others.
And I'll go for the fitness centre as well.
So in this instance, the majority is the number 2.
Yep.
So is everyone happy to have that as the first priority?
Well, that was my number 2 priority, so I'm happy with it.
So the beauty of it is then you can go back and do. Your second priority is now become the first priority.
My second priority was the street lighting of the footpath to improve safety.
That's the one between school and.
Yeah.
Yeah, my second priority is the streetlights as well,
Yep.
if it involves youth safety.
Second priority would be the fitness centre.
My second is the accessible playground at the common.
Okay,
Have the right little league club. Please.
okay. Councillor
Mine was the indoor fitness centre.
Solar panel's gone, so, I'm gonna go with the accessible playground.
You didn't ask me.
Oh, sorry. I'm looking over the top of you, I'm gonna get that up. Councillor Tremba.
No, it's all right. I had solar as number 2, so I'm happy to push street lighting up because I believe the safety is quite important.
So you haven't. Just to guess, if your first option didn't get up,
Yeah,
it could still become your first option,
Right.
as your second.
that's why I'm a bit confused with councillor Grimbath, because I thought she was going to say the fitness centre because that was her number 1, which didn't get up, so that would now be her number 2.
Number one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Number two.
Am
All
I
right.
being- Councillor Grimbath?
What have we got up so far, maybe?
All that's up is the,
So all we have
Light.
is the
Solar panel.
solar panel.
Right, well, I was gonna pick my third pick for the solar panel and battery initiative. So that's omitted now,
Yes,
isn't it?
yes.
So it's already
So
included.
that's gone, accessible playgrounds up there, yes?
So the
No.
accessible playground has, at this point in time, is. So is councillor Trembath, are you saying fitness centre or the playground?
I'll put fitness centre as my number 2.
The fitness centre now has 3, the accessible playground has 2, the lighting of the footpaths is 2, and the lighting at the Leagues Club is 1. But then the fitness centre becomes.
So we've got
The
to got
second
eight months
option?
to play with, haven't we?
Sorry?
So I just thought if we get all these other projects out of the way, we're getting more projects done and getting them finished. and
So-
finalised.
So through the chair, at this point in time, you, with your first 2 options, you have spent 780.
So
You
you
have
don't get any-
$100,000
so
project
that's, so
available.
that's the indoor,
No, that's the
so
one.
solar panels,
So solar panels is 1.
Yep.
The indoor fitness centre is 2.
yeah.
So it's obvious we go with the street lighting of the footpaths because that's 100,000 makes it 885,000.
See, I would have thought your council would have just basically went with all the cheap projects, get them all finalised and out of the way because they're necessities. And then the larger projects, do them down the track, because that way we've got the money, we need to get these smaller projects
The other
finished.
view is that when you have a project that's half completed, you complete it.
Yeah, but I see our disability and our lighting and the smaller projects more important.
That's all right, well, we've,
This is democracy.
You now have $100,000 to spend, councillors.
So what are the things that are exactly there?
So you have an accessible playground, the street lighting between Dudley and Albion Street.
And the solar panels?
No, the solar panels is
Solar
already
panels are
done.
there.
You've
Two things.
endorsed.
Yeah, that's what I said. What have we now, what is chosen?
You have endorsed 1 and 2.
So the fitness centre, the 585,000.
Yep.
Hasn't that just recently been fitted out as well?
So the stage 1 has been done. Stage 2 is the
Yeah.
So now you're looking at $100,000 project. Or, correct, sorry, or choose another project for $100,000 and do part.
I think we could have just wrote our list from 1 to 6 and then you pick from it, which ones were the most popular.
That's what we're gonna do.
so let's go again. The last choice.
So there is, under the current scenario, the accessible playground is 100,000. The street lighting is at the, between Dudley and Albion is 100,000. And or any component or partial component of other projects.
No, I say the.
And we don't know what the cost of the lights for the Leagues ground is going to cost.
We put 200,000 on the basis of what we think. That
I'll start.
Okay.
All right, on the last one, I'm gonna go for the street lighting footpath.
Where do you want to go?
No, I'd go accessible playground.
Street lighting.
Accessible playground.
Accessible playground.
Playground.
Street lighting.
Street lighting.
Street lighting.
Thank you, councillor, now for all, thanks for that.
Disability inclusion win.
Street lighting, because the youth council's proposed it.
Yeah, I mean, that's what drove me, is
Mm.
it was youth council idea.
Came from our youth council.
So we could have put the whole fitness centre aside and done these important ones.
In a typical council
Councillor
meeting,
Graham.
Can I make a comment, please? You can apply for all of them if you want to.
Mm. Exactly.
Limit yourself to the amount that's available. You can apply for
But
over,
what this does is prioritise.
yeah, so, but there's no priority when you put them in to the,
Oh, yeah, there is.
through the chair, we will be prioritising our project. Number one, solar panels, number two, this,
Fitness
number
centre.
three. The reason we do that is because, and I agree that you always go over and
they
they
don't
might not
necessarily
agree.
take any notice of those priorities. do
They
they?
might not, yes, they might not.
Yes, you're absolutely right, but if you
Don't
don't
really
give
do.
it to them, you don't get it.
Councillors, you have.
One time I'm not going to use the casting vote.
No.
Frankly, listen to that.
I've just explained the reason I preferred the accessible playground is just picking up on in the guidance, the third paragraph under strong communities, round 5 on 117. It specifically mentions projects that improve accessibility, inclusion for people with disability. And so it's so neatly fit into that description that I thought it was a good one to put in.
I chose the street lighting of the footpath between Dudley Street and Albion Street, as I said, because the Oberon Youth Council see this as a priority. And I think we have to show relevance to our Oberon Youth Council and show that apart from anything else, that we do listen to them and that we are aware of their concerns and that we should show them some respect for what their views are.
And I remember at the time that we were very clear on that when we accepted their recommendation.
Make a comment on that one. Where are they walking to and from? When they walk up there in the dark?
From the RSL club.
Where should they go to the industrial area? They don't live there.
Maybe they can search it.
They go to the church, from the RSL to the church.
Councillors,
Or other way around.
information.
Yeah, that, through the chair, that recommendation from the youth council came about, with youth undertaking activities at the Christian Light Centre and then, upon completion, walking back into town, and that was the concern that was raised that, footpath, so that was.
That-
the nature of it.
That would be solar lights.
I thought they wanted in the footpath, didn't they?
No, just on
Okay, I thought they wanted like in the contract.
Movie.
Councillors, we're all on one.
Okay, now
two
we have
projects.
to play our argument out and see who can get the best recommendation of why.
How about if we increase the solar panels to 300,000 and then we won't have to make a decision?
No, we still have to prioritise that.
No, I think it's important that the community have some disability inclusion. There's a lot of people that are wheelchair bound in Oberon. And they actually do not have a swing. They do not have that park that they can go to. There is one disability inclusion swing in Buffett, recently installed. Oberon needs to lead the way and have one installed here.
stop the school.
Strong arguments on both sides.
How confident are we of the figure for the fitness centre?
Through the chair, reasonably confident. It's been costed.
Could have gone up, that was a while ago, that was costed.
We've added the pandemic premium to the costing. The beauty of what I was going to say is that the beauty of lodging these things under one application is if there's any shortfall or any underspends, that can be allocated to any of those projects within the deed at the time. So I was going to say, if any shortfall or any underspend, it'll go towards further solar panels within our program.
As a further suggestion, given that submissions have to happen by 23rd of September, which is only 3 days after our next meeting, could the submissions for all of those 4 projects be prepared? And so it's all ready to go and we make that decision at the September meeting.
Through the chair, I'm just cognizant of the time for the grants officer to prepare a whole briefing report and then not use it. That would be my only comment.
And she's going to be assisting with.
And the community ones as well.
Yeah, but we're putting in all 4. It's just a matter of which order they are in.
Yes, but
Through the chair, we're looking to spend the funds. You've got $100,000. This is $200,000 in the project.
That's a point.
Mr. Chairman, I think in this case, you do have to use the casting vote, don't you?
No,
We're not
I'm
gonna get you that.
gonna, does anyone have a coin? I'm quite serious.
Let's pass them on as far.
Through the chair, the mayors have been elected, we are happy for, so, yeah.
Other side.
50 cent piece.
Oh, yeah, 50 piece.
Yeah. It's a double-edged one.
So the accessible playground.
Can I just, there has been a late voice from the abyss. And that is that we do have a youth council meeting on Monday night. If you really want to have that youth inclusion, do you prioritise these 2 projects and let the youth council make that decision? Then we progress on that basis because they are both the youth initiatives. Or you just want to make the decision?
The decision. Which is, because what we will be doing is saying basically which one's priority 3.
That's right.
And the other one will be priority 4.
I choose heads.
So accessible playground heads and street lighting tails.
I can't see it.
No, I know. I just went like that to change it.
Tails.
Is your lighting at the tails?
Damn thing.
Turn double. Oh.
This will be interesting. So the council makes a decision by flipping the coin.
Well, mayors can get elected like the coin. Hasn't.
Okay.
No one thought I had.
All right, so we now have those priorities.
I'm prepared to move the resolution on the vote.
And now we will go to the moving. So we've got the priority 1, which is the solar panel, priority 2, center, priority 3, the street lighting, priority 4, the accessible playground. All right. Now, the recommendation is that council, well, we set the priority, so the recommendations that
The council,
we've ranked in order priority projects, and we'll submit a single application to the Strong Country Communities Fund round 5 by the 23rd of September 2022. All those in favour?
Right.
Passed unanimously. We did. Oh, sorry, Councillor Gibbon and
Yeah,
Councillor Hayden.
Thank you.
we didn't get full, we didn't make.
Right. We did quite a bit of talking in that one. All right, reports and information, monthly activity report for the general manager. Move in a second, please. Councillor Hayden and Councillor Gibbon. Councillor Hayden.
Yes, I'm happy to move the recommendation been a busy period of time, and it's a very thorough report.
Councillor Gibbon?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm very happy to second it. It's a thorough report, and I'm also very interested to see the involvement that our public liability statewide has had in continuous improvement pathways, assisting council in risk management, and that they're going to meet with council's directors, I think it is, at the top of page 124, it says directorates. Does that mean directors? It's all, it says the council CRP submission.
So directorates are different director level areas, yeah.
Oh, right, okay, fine. That's good for them to be involved with that area. And have they identified any areas that they consider of any concern to them as their insurer?
And through the chairman at this point in time, it's just a continual program. Our continual improvement planning helps to assist us in reducing our risks and accommodating all those corporate risks that we have and minimising those or the exposure to those.
And the only comment I'd made, and I could have made it in relation to the mayoral report, is the meeting of the 27th July with the LLS representatives. I think went very well. They showed a lot of support for Oberon and the Upper Macquarie County Council in that meeting, and gave us a broad range of briefing on their activities in relation to livestock, pests, weeds, biosecurity, the veterinary services provided to landholders, and obviously their pastures area and pasture improvement areas. So I think it was a very good briefing from LLS. So I'm very happy to second this report.
Any others? Oh, Councillor McCarthy, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I was just wondering, in the general manager's report, can we get an update on the sports facility that we're getting? There at the moment, there's probably no progress, but in the monthly report from the general manager, whether we've got the traffic report or something like that, could get an updated so we know where we're at.
Yeah,
Because
so,
he's got that
I think
delegation.
so through the chair, we've updated it through that action report in the status, but yeah, that has been supplied and uploaded to the portal.
Okay.
Any more? I'll put the motion all in favour. Motion's passed unanimously. Monthly activity report for planning developments. Recommendation is in 1402 is received with information. Councillor McKibben. Councillor Hayden. Councillor McKibben.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's pleasing to see that the Oberon off-leash dog park is starting to get some legs with the quotations or request of quotations for the fencing, and also that the Reef Primitive Camping Ground toilet and shower facility is moving along. And from what I can see from the tables on 126, 128 and 129, or particularly 129 and 130, we seem to be reducing the time frame for most of our the DA applications or applications lodged, which is good. I note the comment made by the Director of Planning that the number of applications lodged in July was considerably above last year, as we previously know from the previous meeting with June applications. I note the number of certificates issued has increased quite dramatically on page 131, and as is the number of cats and dogs impounded in June. It's dropped a bit in July, but when you look at the actual physical total numbers, it's really not that much. You only need one or two to increase the number considerably. However, I do have some questions in relation to the Oberon waste facility on 127. Have any update on the hard rubber tired front end loader trial, and how that's progressing? How much longer does it go for?
Through the chair, it's been progressing very positively. The staff found it being worthwhile. It's the different the buckets and different patches that have kind of been certainly worthwhile to be. As you know, as I said previously, the telehandler was good for positing material, particularly asbestos, into the asbestos hole. But this tool, the front loader can also do that. So at this stage, the feedback I'm getting is very positive.
So probably of the two, the front end loaders being a better solution.
Through the chair at this stage.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
And
When-
also through
when
the
the-
chair, probably another couple of weeks
So the
trial.
So we suggest September, we'll be having to look at making a determination.
Through the chair, that's likely to be brought back to September, yes.
Okay, thank you. The other thing on the same subject, the Oberon waste facility, the investigations by Enercon Group, have been ongoing for some time. Do we have any, I don't think it's referred to in the update for, resolutions, but do we have any indication as to when those investigations may be completed and we have a solution for implementation? Sorry.
Through the chair, Anacon undertook the design, we got the design back.
Yes.
The design that Anacon had provided was contrary to the conditions of acceptance from the landowner. This was based on a number of things and where things were. We've gone back to Anacon, and my understanding is that they've now had another look at that and redirected the alignment to the southern side of the property rather than the northern side of the property. There has to be some upgrades made on the basis that this particular landowner has indicated that in order for this to occur, they want three-phase power connected to the shed. We also need three-phase power, but there are some additional things that needed to occur. Anacon were looking to contact the landowner. We've been in contact with the landowner, give an update, and that progresses. So we're hopeful to get towards the end of that very, very soon.
I assume that Enercon's not charging us for an updated diagram on the basis they didn't read the original conditions correctly from the landowner.
I can confirm through essential energy requirements was the, I suppose, the sticking point with the original design and what they would tolerate, permit, versus what the desired outcome was to be. So with some more negotiation, I think that's where the actual win was in terms of being able to get to an agreement with essential energy and then allowing the actual amendment to occur on the southern side as per the request of the property owner. So that's what did transpire. I think the offset would be the saving grace of the extension of overhead aerial power in behind that particular property in relation to a few other modifications that are required in order to provide that three-phase power. Again, those costings are being reviewed as we speak, and so we're getting that predetermined through Enercon Energy.
Sorry, I'm a little confused from what you're saying, because does that mean we now have to go on the southern side of this property and underground?
Yes, that's always been the case, certainly underground through the property.
Through the property, but Enercon designed the northern side rather than the southern side. And why was that? Didn't they look at the conditions, or didn't Essential Energy make it clear? I'm a bit confused.
No, I think they've just taken a determination through essential energy conditions at the time. So again, confirmation back with Enercon was that it must go on the southern side, and by whatever means was negotiated with essential energy to do that. So they're coming across the road from the existing poles underground along the frontage of the actual property to the southern boundary and down that side boundary and alike, facilitate that. Just wish of the
I understand exactly what the director's talking about because I've seen the plan. I think that if we upload the plan to council to give them an understanding about what we're talking about, that may in fact simplify this matter.
Okay, all right, I got that. So when are we going when do we think we crystallise this and we can actually proceed? We've got a costing for it yet or not?
So the costing's being prepared at this point in time. The agreement has to be reached with the landowner before we even go down that path.
Yes.
So that's in train. That only needs that agreed plan to be signed off by the landowner in order for that to occur.
Yeah.
Once that's undertaken, we know that we have a costing that we need to prepare.
And we have to prepare an easement document and all of that.
Yeah, we also have to negotiate with the owner of the land, and we're not sure whether the owner of the land is that person or a bank. So we have to work out those sort of things as well.
Oh, actually, sorry.
Yeah. So there is some due diligence that needs to occur.
Okay, so we've got a time frame.
We're hoping to have the documents signed in the next week, so, or certainly prepared in the next week, because they're ready to go apart from the design.
So then it has to go to the owner and the owner's
And the
mortgage,
owner's
mortgage
solicitor to
or
have a look at
the
it.
bank or whatever.
Correct.
Certainly the deed of agreement.
And then how long, once that's all signed up, how long will it be? We've got a cost to put it underground and get it to our
Correct.
facility. And so we're looking at getting this done by, let's say, October, November.
Once that costing has been provided, a report will be provided to council for them to consider.
Right.
So I'll be saying either September or October to have that available, I would suspect.
That's, yeah, certainly at our earliest to get back to.
All right, okay, fine, thank you. I
But
just,
there has been no agreement made by council to do this.
no, yes, I realise, but kind of, it's just it's been on the, in reports after reports, on a cut, Enercon are reporting this for the last 3 months, 4 months, so I just wanted an update. I'm happy to second it on the basis of the information provided. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Any other?
You
questions?
moved it.
Oh, I'm happy to move it, sorry.
Okay,
I'm happy to second it and have no conversation whatsoever.
anyone else? No other comments, and move the recommendation, all in favour? Passed unanimously. Getting there. 1403, technical services report, recommendation, we 1403 receive this information. Mr. Hayden. Councillor McGivern. Councillor Hayden.
Yes, I'm happy to move the reporter's recommendation to receive the report. And it's good to see that some of the work that has been inundated by all the wet weather is getting done. A few other things to be done, and I'm sure all the works crews out there will be getting on top of things once this weather goes away and dries up.
Councillor McGivern.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I've heard some good reports on the Baldridge Road Bridge, and I know the Flyers Nest Bridge is just about complete, or is it now open, Chris?
Just about,
Just about.
yes.
Page 134. Have we, I know we sent a letter to New South Wales Regional Local Government Program Coordinator on the 27th about repurposing the underspend for Burriga. Have we heard anything back yet? Is there any update on that?
Through the chair, no, there hasn't been any update yet. However, there's been more correspondence. It's gone back to Transport today, asking for clarification on the position of that. So as soon as a response is forthcoming, I'm sure we can provide that to all councillors.
And on 136, I sent you an email, re the Archstone Road, and the proposal, whether it's to the east or the west. Did you provide that to all councillors?
Through the chair, I think the general manager may have forwarded that response to remaining councillors, I believe. That's correct.
Through the chair, if I have it, I'm more than happy to.
I know it went to Councillor McCarthy because he raised at the last meeting about the east and west.
More than happy to forward that response to all council.
Yeah, I think maybe if you could just give a brief, it's a bit uncertain as to whether you go east or west on that. You're looking at both options at the moment, if I can short circuit what. Probably the east is firmer, but requires a major crossing. The west, is it the west?
No, the west needs
The west is firmer and the east, I raised a concern about the whole state of that hill being unstable down to basically the Blue Road, from both what I've seen visually and I think Councillor McCarthy, similar view, and from what you can see, even looking at something like Google Maps, you know, the status. So I just asked further investigation be looked at, because we don't want to put a road in that, a replacement road that then ends up being in the same position moving down the hill. So anyway, I've raised the concerns, so you're investigating it, so I'll leave it with you. Apart from that, I'm very happy with the report.
All right, move recommendation, sorry.
Sorry, I was moving in second. I have a couple of questions, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. Page 133, just the picture of Baldridge Bridge on that page. Are there to be terminal ends attached to the guardrail?
Look, through the chair, at this stage, it hasn't been included, but it will be included down the track, certainly, yes.
Page 136 at the bottom, that talks about a safety project on Buckenroy Road. And I'm not quite clear on the final sentence. It says project planning progress. Survey works have been completed. Project design is currently being finalised, expected to be delivered by the end of August 2022. Is that referring to that project immediately above it, the road safety project on Buckenroy Road?
Through the chair, yes, that is correct. It's the Transport for New South Wales project on Buckenroy Road, which the project design, what that's.
So the design will be delivered by the end of August.
Yes.
And is it expected that council will be asked to deliver that? Because some of the works there are a bit outside our normal, what we would normally do.
Through the chair, yes, the council has been requested to deliver the project, obviously managing other elements that we can't do, obviously through contractor assistance, which is not uncommon.
Yeah, all right, thank you. And just on RMCC works, I'm not sure if this is a question for yourself or Matt. Just wondering if we could get a summary of the various works undertaken under that contract during the financial year just completed, just so we can get an idea of what the demands are on council resources, how much profit or loss we make on them, and whether it is worth our while being involved in the contract. I assume it is, and depending on the amount of profit, then what we do with the profit. So, but the first step is just to get a list of the projects from the financial year just completed, project cost, what we spent and what we received.
Through the chair, we include that as part of our annual report each year, like we do. Yeah, so the projects that have occurred, we wouldn't go down the path of how much profit we make. I'm mindful of what the request is.
Yeah.
But certainly
those session that, and if it's confidential, that's perfectly fine. And we always do the same thing.
Luckily, we're doing the same thing there.
That's one.
Yes, thank you. I would just like to say to the Technical Services Director, I've had Ben Chifley Catchment, Riot Park, and several carriers thank Oberon Council for finally removing that willow at Campbell's River on the Log River Docks Road.
Just needed the right environment to do so.
So there's been a lot of appreciation for that. Just while mentioning the issues, the Campbell's, sorry, the Campbell's River Road, it is tending to break down in certain sections, not just at the crossing of the Campbell's River. Do we have any flyback to our contractors, any drawback to our contractors for warranty? Because even the section I travelled on tonight, I was quite amazed that it has broken down in a number of sections. There's a lot along the front of Daisy Bank, then further back on the southern side of Campbell's River Road there. Anyway,
We're going to all need to vote by the end of the year.
But I'm just asking if there's any recourse. Obviously, the bit around the Campbell's River is going to continually break down whatever happens because of the nature of where it's located. And we all wanted to put but anyway, if it maybe have a invest, I'm not asking for a question at the moment, maybe have a look at it.
I'll put the motion. All in favour? I didn't see your hand up.
No, we can start. I haven't moved it.
I'm sorry,
No, that's fine. Yeah, Newmansville Road, I'm just wondering, Townsend, the landowner very close there, is very concerned about the height of the culverts. And has indicated that he's receiving flooding now. And I wonder whether we can facilitate a meeting between the general manager and Chris and the landowner down there to see if we can't sort this out.
Sorry, we haven't had any, have you received any information from Leno?
Yes, certainly, I've been in contact with landowner, raised concern with regard to the construction there. With some elements around higher water levels, we believe of. So we're happy to have that an on-site meeting. As a question,
Is it on the basis of the bridge formation or on the basis of there's been lots of water being overflowed from the?
We're still monitoring that. If you go down Bailey's Lane, you've got 400 mil of water going across that crossing.
Yep.
And it would flow on down there, but he's concerned that, or they're concerned that the height of what the culverts are installed is flooding an area that's never been flooded down there before at their place. And now's the time to have a talk to them before we complete the job. That's all right. If it's all right with you, I'd like to
I don't have any
be
problem
part of
doing
the meeting with you.
it. We do have some infrastructure that's currently underwater that.
I understand
probably-
that.
But yeah, more than happy to set up that meeting
There may be a way around it to
to facilitate.
just the
I'll tell you
concern.
what, I just, yep, happy to.
It all comes from.
Yeah, I'm the same with Campbell's River Road. I travel a bit further out from Burriga right through, and there's failures there as well. I don't know if we just got to, I don't think you get any warranty off anybody, but we've just got to put it down somewhere. We've got to get funds to repair it. And what do you call it? It's gone. The surface is gone in several locations, and you know we've spent all that money, and yeah, we've just got to have to do it. So, the flood money might, well, maybe it facilitates it, but there again, have we got the staff to do the job?
All right. Any more?
No, I'm just voting.
All those in favour? Pass. Corporate services, recommendations reporting only forward received as information. Councillor Hayden, Councillor McKibben.
Yes, I'm happy to move the report of information. It's a good report and I have nothing further to say. Thank you.
Councillor McKibben.
So I'd agree with that. It's an excellent report. Very happy to second it. And I would also say that the council portal has been great use to council.
Anyone else? I'll put the motion.
Right.
Recommendation is. All right, 1405, statement of investments. Move to second, please. Councillor Hayden, Councillor Gill. Sorry, I was looking that way to start with. Councillor Hayden.
Yes, I'm happy to move the report. It's thorough, same as the norm with all the investments and nothing further to say.
Councillor Gill.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's a good report, and it's good to see that our rate of return, our interest rates are going up. And I note that we're now getting 4.2, I think is our top, 3.2, which is considerably more than the 0.2 we were getting some time ago.
Yep.
I note that several investments have matured, and I'm assuming that they're being reinvested on similar interest rates. Is that correct? That's correct. I'm happy with the report. Thank you.
Anyone else? All those in favour? Motion is passed unanimously. Grants monthly updates. The board has received as information. Mover and seconder, councillor Hayden. Councillor Tucker. Councillor Hayden.
Yes, happy to move the report, and the report actually speaks for itself and should receive planning for the successful green.
Thank you. Councillor Tucker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Happy to second a couple of questions. On page 146, section 2A, community building partnership solar panels on Oberon Hill and fitness centre. Is that doubling up with what was just decided, or does it become obsolete, or is the other 200,000 for other facilities not including mentioned? Correct. Right. Okay. And if council's proposed contribution is 23,000, where does that come? Is it already provided for in the budget?
Yep.
Thank you. Page 147, item 2C, Abercrombie Road. It talks about the original completion date of 30th of the 6th, 21. Is that incorrect? Should that be 22? Has that been sitting there for 12 months?
Yes, that should be 22, I think, yes.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, I couldn't understand why it's 14 months later but it's coming up.
Yep.
And page 148, item 3A, fixing local road round 4. So I assume at some point in the not too distant future, certainly not too distant future, applications close 9th of September. Is this another one that we need to decide what we're going to, what project we're going to apply for?
Through the chair, certainly it's favourably at roads that are involved with logging, of course. And when we put round 3 together, it was limited to a cap in the funding. We did at that time do more analysis on the Yarkstone Road network right down to the Isabella River. And so it's recommended that on that basis that we make continuation, because this is the last round that we believe that will occur. And favourably looking at being a long haul road, that council continued to upgrade the remaining portion of the Yarkstone Road as part of round 4. So that's really where we were at, unless council, of course, has other views.
No, I guess I was querying that we've just gone through that whole discussion about which projects to apply for, and any time grant funding comes up, I think that's good to see a list of possible projects and let council decide the priorities, because there's no recommendation here as to which project we want to see as priority. It says that being at the start. And I was just wondering whether it might be an opportunity, following the discussions that I've had with the director about reseals and how we're such a long way behind on reseal program, whether that might be an opportunity to catch up on some reseals on Forestry Road, especially at a time when we've got so much construction work anyway and struggling to keep up with it.
Yeah, good chair, that certainly could be an option to look at that. So I would have no objection, of course, with reseals. I think that's money well spent.
Yeah, well, particularly as from the preliminary figures that you and I discussed, where it looks like we're only achieving a recurrence of about every 100 years to reseal any roads, and we really have to do some catching up.
Yeah, certainly we don't want to be in a position where we have a greater backlog with condition.
Yeah, well, we've already got a backlog, but this is a chance to catch up. So that would be my personal preference, that a substantial part of that fixing local roads round before that we apply to reseal forestry roads. Does it need a resolution, or will we take it as read?
At this point? Well, but through the chair, council's previously indicated their intention to continue Larkstone, which is why this has been provided for. If you were, you definitely need a resolution to do so. So if you want to change it, I'd suspect that's what you would need to do, I'd suspect, given that staff are preparing a submission for the addition to Armstone Road as the directors indicate.
Or are there other funding mechanisms to facilitate what councillor Tucker's just raised, but like outside?
Well, it follows under what I was going to ask next, from the discussion that I had with the director. I gather that we're receiving a further 1 million. I'm not sure if exactly 1 million, but following the recent heavy rains. And the impression was that that's open to the decisions as to how that million will be spent, and with no previous decisions that need to be complied with, could we look at putting a lot or all of that million onto research?
Well, as we, through the chair, that money that's been provided has a set set of guidelines that we need to be.
Is it flood damage money?
No. Council received $1 million of monies from the state because it was declared a natural disaster on the basis of flood. As part of that addition that comes with catches all the time, we will provide a report back to council as to how they want to do that in the near future. I'll have to take on notice whether that money can be spent for resales at this point in time, because I'm not over what that looks like at this point.
Right. Well, I won't move to spend the fixing local roads round 4 on reseals. I don't see that it's likely to succeed, but again, as per our discussion, we will need to look at our reseals in the near future.
And I'm sure there'll be a number of competing projects that use $1 million on, I suspect.
That was all.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have indicated the initiation of this meeting a declaration of interest in that apartment on part of my property is on Mount David Road. But I do speak from a number of other people who've mentioned the state of Mount David Road, in that it is a massive a lot of potholes and a lot of patches. Suppose what I were interested also to know, do we have any traffic information on that road? And also, do we have any heavy traffic information on that road? Because it does seem to be breaking up all the way along, as is indicated at the bottom of 143. The technical service staff are also considering the following project.
Guys, council, we're talking about grants here.
Yes,
We're
I
not
know.
talking about road.
Yes, but it says technical staffs are also considering the following projects. Does that mean it's going to be included within the grant, or what's the, so I didn't know why the scroll on.
Yeah, so through the chair, certainly as I alluded, that Arcstone Road had already been assessed and determined in terms of costings. The other options were those particularly two roads. Obviously, Mount Shooters Hill Road obviously is one that is utilised quite well with forestation, and there is a link obviously between Mount Warong and the Abercrombie Road that's not done, which would facilitate an opening, I suppose, for further movements through that part. Was one consideration. Second to that was Mount David, which doesn't have heavies on it, and is not open to anything open other than 19-metre size trucks, 19-metre length trucks. However, it could potentially facilitate a link for forestation, whether that's encouraged by council or not, was a potential for consideration at the time. So that's why those two are mentioned there.
Well, I've certainly seen a lot more than 19 metres on that road, but anyway, that's okay. It's not up for a grant. Maybe it's a matter for further consideration at a later time. Thank you.
Thank you for your time. Fixing local roads, we've got those two nominated, and predominantly they're for forestry. When do we start supporting our own people, like, say, completing Carwood Road, Black Bullock Road, and those sort of ones? And that's what it says, fixing local roads. We have another source of been able to get in our local members' ears like we did out at the Meadows Road and get funding. We need to start fixing some of these local roads of our ratepayers and put more pressure on the state forest to provide one-off funding for their haul roads. Like, I'm sorry, but that's the way I feel. We seem to always be bannering for the state forest. And they have other means. They don't pay rates. Our local people, like I said, completing the Carwood Road, it's only 3 kilometres left. We could do that. And it takes away the pressure off our own local roads. Anyway, that's all I feel. Thank you.
All right, any more? I'll put the motion, all those in favour? Pass. Water and sewer reports, 1407, mover and second, please. Councillor Hayden. One more? Second one? Someone, Councillor What?
Yes, I'm happy to move the report as information can do.
Councillor What?
Yes, I'm happy to second it.
Anyone else?
Did our, sorry, didn't see that. Did our income match our consumption for the water that we had last? There was a sizable amount of increase. So wouldn't have that have come up with a certain amount of income? We matched by it? What I'm getting at, was it one consumer mainly used that water? All the goodness, or was it just a whole? Just seems. Lots, that's what I mean. Was it someone flushing their dirty dams out or something like that?
Well, certainly, pretty sure I can say obviously with the, some of the water issues that we've had in the flushing of mains and like, there has been greater water consumption, no doubt, in terms of discharging through hydrants and cleaning, so.
But that was prior to that, though, wasn't it?
Well, it's been ongoing, no doubt.
That month. I didn't think we'd done any. That's not this month. Right.
Well, we continue to do hydrant routine flushing, certainly. So there have been elements that we have noted around the network with certain testing data to continue that regime, and we'll continue to do that for the coming months. It is a routine thing we do anyway, but again, probably we've done it more often than we have historically had to do it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a follow-up question from the discussion we had at our briefing session last week in relation to the sewer overflow up in my place. Is my recollection correct that you said that at that stage there hadn't been any reaction from EPA, but that they were coming for a visit a couple of days later, late last week? Or am I getting mixed up with the
EPA visited on a matter.
Right,
It's just that they were included in this matter as a proactive measure.
So through the chair, it's been reported. No doubt.
Yes, I'm being reported. I picked my ears up a couple of days ago. I heard on the news that Sydney Water were fined for a very similar overflow, which was not much bigger than ours, and it just made me wonder whether they were going to take just a slap on the wrist over this one.
Certainly, it's a matter that's likely what they elect to do from here.
Oh, yes, of course it is. That's what prompted my asking whether they had made any comment about it. No. Okay.
Nobody else? I'll move the motion, all those in favour? Passed. Monthly update of council resolution, item 1408. Councillor Hayden and one other, please. Councillor McKibben.
Yes, I'm happy to use the report of information that's been happening, and that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Councillor McKibben.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If I could go to page 154, do we have any update on the top item, which is 12-200-721, the draft plan of management for 24 Crown Reserves? So it's still with our council's planning staff, is it?
Through the chair, my understanding is we're liaising with the the department as to what they want to, for us to provide.
Okay. I take it we've had no update, page 157. In relation to the sale of the land, the corner of Abercrombie and Campbell's River Road. Still with the applicant to provide further information.
Correct.
Any update on the Apex toilets, the second line, second row from the bottom of 157?
For the chair, certainly I've had no interest at this stage. Matter ongoing.
And if I could, top of page 158. The two top rows in relation to residential land development, industrial land development. So there are going to be grant opportunities for these developments from the government, is that right?
Through the chair, I think, in relation to the comment that I made earlier tonight about the regional activation fund, absolutely.
Right, so we're just waiting to see when they're going to be issued.
It has been mooted for a little while. Now it seems to be moving a little bit more than what previously has.
And the bottom row on that page, Dart Street, I take it that that's been delayed due to the hugely inclement weather. Is that correct?
For the chair, yeah, that is one point, and secondly, contractor availability is another. So that are ongoing at stage.
Okay, I take it we're not, as I think you've reported previously, that 164. The intent is for the detailed design to be back by the end of August, is that correct?
That's what we're anticipating, yes.
That's all I have. It's a lengthy report and there's a lot more dates than previously, so I commend the report. As a seconder, I think.
Anyone else? All right, I'll put motion, all those in favour? Item 1409, the Funky Livery Plan Report. Recommendations of 1409 received as information. Councillor Hayden, Councillor McKibben.
Yes, I'm happy to move the recommendation as the report being accepted, and it was a very good, well together report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I've read through it. It seems to indicate how we met all the objectives set out. The only issues I had was probably on page 168. When it talks in the column council profile, it talks about expenditure 14,678,000 2017-18. Is that correct? Or is that the wrong date, or should we be updating that? Because we're talking, this is spreading for the period 1922. And I just asked if all the other statistics on that page are correct and have been updated appropriately. But as to the themes and the responses given to most of those, I thought they were very good. Thank you.
The graphics, right, if you also understand that our new community strategic plan took place on the 1st of July 2022. So we're reporting back that pretty much the last 6 months of the last CSP, which has some standardized stuff in it. The new one will be updated accordingly. Yes. It was just standard, that snapshot is standard graphics that we use associated with the previous.
It has 17, 18 days.
Yeah.
But
it will be updated.
But this was
standardized.
This was from 19 to 22, and we used 17, 18 days. Okay, all right. I don't know.
1922.
Sorry?
1922.
19.
From 1922.
No, from 2019 to 2022.
Yeah, thank you.
Just for your own information, councillor McKibben, I'm just looking here, I updated the transcript. The latest statistics have our population at 5580, which equates to the 1% population rise per year that we
Predicted
predicted, much to the chagrin of the state government. And also, unfortunately, our median age is now at 47 instead of 45.
Wow.
All right, I'll put the motion, all in favour? Right, I have one item I just want to bring to everyone's attention, and that is that, and we need the minister to record this. We need to congratulate young Ebony Robinson of O'Connell, who is the Western Region Academy of Sport Cycling Athlete of the Year. Diplomatic has already got some congratulations. Letters and things going out.
Through the chair, yep, that will be, we're looking to, in fact, congratulate her on all our socials, we're just waiting for confirmation for a certain number of things, but we'll be looking to do that.
All right, there is no urgent business, and in that case. Sorry. In accordance with the Local Government Act of 1993 and the Local Government General Regulations of 2005, in the opinion of the General Manager, the following business is of a kind as referred to in section 10A2 of the Act and should be dealt with in a part of the meeting closed to the media and public, and that is item 1601, section 356 Financial Assistance Program. I now ask for councillors to move and second the resolution to move into closed session. Councillor Hayden, Councillor McKibben. I now request the minute secretary turn off the recordings at 9:07. Now back and open. The time is 9:13. In open council, I advise that the following resolutions were made while the meeting was closed to the public. Item 1601, section 356 Financial Assistance Program. 1, the council consider the late application received for support under the section 356 donation program, and council approve the application and place the allocation on public exhibition for 28 days. The next ordinary council meeting of the Oberon Council will be held on Tuesday, the 20th September 2022, commencing at 5:30 in the Oberon Council Chambers, Oberon Street, Oberon. I now declare the meeting closed at 9:14 PM and wish everybody a good evening. Thank you all, councillors.